fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Sec's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome everyone back to SimSpeed TV. It's a Saturday evening for us here in Australia, and it means it's time once again for the Majors Series International region here in 2022. And as you can see already on screen, welcome to the championship finale. NASCAR Next Gen returns at Homestead Miami Speedway to determine our series champions across a multitude of drivers' divisions, and one of our team's championships still up for grabs here tonight as well. We'll break it all down for you over the course of this evening and in the preparation building up to the race tonight. But before we get there, my name is Danny Yeaman, joining the SimSpeed commentary booth after a busy period away in the real world. Ryan Jones, welcome back into the box here, and Jay Kennedy, as always, on production. But indeed, first time in a long time for you, Ryan, this year, back on the mic with us here at SimSpeed. But, well, probably one of the better voices to have with us tonight when it comes to getting up to speed on ovals and making sure we're across everything here with these guys in the Majors Series tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. It's been a minute, but we're back, much to everyone's disappointment, I'm sure. But yeah, I've done a bit of oval racing this year over in NASCAR and come up short every single time. But I'd like to think I can provide a little bit of insight into how tonight's going to play out, and it should be an interesting one. I think we're going to see some multi-groove racing tonight, which is always good fun.
Well, that'll be one to watch out as the track and the racing progresses. Of course, taking a chance to have a look here at the world map, starting, of course, with the United States of America, zooming on here to the deep south. Of course, a couple of capital cities of United States there, along with also speedways and venues in the iRacing service of note, such as Birmingham, Barber Motorsports Park up there, Myrtle Beach Speedway up at, no surprises there, Myrtle Beach. But we'll zoom on in down to Miami in a couple of seconds' time, because, of course, Homestead Miami Speedway is where we will be tonight. So, indeed, we can now make our way down onto the Floridian Peninsula and all the way down to pretty much the southern tip here, and we get to bring the Speedway into view here now on your screen. And well, it's the oval course tonight, painted in white on your pictures. 1.5 miles of high-speed banked track. Although, in saying that, Ryan, very little banking through the straightaways, and all things considered, not that much banking on the turns here at Homestead Miami.
Yeah, only 18 to 20 degrees. It's very slightly progressively banked as well. That first lane around the bottom of the racetrack doesn't have as much banking as the rest of the racing surface, and that means oftentimes you'll see drivers just staying a lane off the bottom. But I think we're going to be seeing drivers running all the way around the top of the racetrack tonight, because that high line looks pretty quick. There's a lot of off-throttle time, and that means you can gain a lot by carrying your momentum through the corner.
Yeah, I actually decided for a change to also, once jumped into the session here tonight, to maybe get a feel for what could be up here over the course of the evening. And indeed, if you can handle the high line and not put it up in the fence, that certainly will be critical for allowing you to maintain that speed, as you mentioned. And as I noted before, we've got our Drivers' Championships and one of our Team Championships to still settle. And this is the big one, of course, the Pro Drivers' Championship. It's a two-way fight between Robert Northway and Thomas Hinz there at the top of the table. Just 35 points separating them at this stage coming into the racing tonight. There is also drop rounds to consider as well, which might shuffle things up. But what we can tell you at the very least is that Robert Northway, second place or better at the checkered flag tonight, Ryan, will secure that title regardless of what happens to Thomas Hinz tonight. So, of course, Hinz will be hoping to get another win on his belt after also winning the previous round of the Classic 2.4 at Daytona. But he'll need Northway third place or lower to be able to steal that championship away here tonight.
not completely unattainable. How good is this? A fly-in for one race, and I've got a multi-championship battle. Because take a look at the sportsman standings as well, Dan. There is just 25 points covering Robertson and Julian Mookie, and Dave Trevethan not too far behind either, just hanging on to title contention as well.
He sure is. And then, of course, minor placings such as Phil Otto and Chasten Teets there. Barely anything in it between them. You could probably include James Catchpole in that fight for fourth in class as well. So plenty of action. This sportsman category has been incredibly competitive all season long, and it's coming to a head here at this final race. A couple of our drivers here who are counting as legends status among the major series, and well, Daniel Stevens has that one wrapped up here, I believe, with this final race tonight being the chance for Dan to secure the points there and the title amongst the legends rated drivers in the international region this year, at least among the outright pro class championship. Then here in the sportsman division with the legends sub division inside that, you can see we've got Dave Trevethan and Phil Otto still have a chance to fight that one out there, I believe, to the end of the race here tonight, Ryan. So, as I said, we've got multiple championships among the drivers to consider. We'll be mainly focusing, of course, on the outright pro and the outright sportsman tonight, but even some of that subdivision stuff to maybe try and get our heads around, hopefully, once we wrap things up here at the end of the night.
Yeah, going to be an intriguing one, and going to be a lot of that action to play out. Not just for the drivers, for the teams as well. It's still alive. But Kinetic Racing, unsurprisingly, have pretty much dominated this year, but Real Bad Racing, right there with them.
No, indeed. This is the one team's championship that is up for grabs there among the sportsman drivers that will come down to the wire. And, well, before we go to the grid, as always, the Major Series continuing to support charities from across the United States and the world. And for the final championship round this year, Whatcom Humane Society has been nominated as the charity of choice. Animal shelter and care facility across the Whatcom County in the United States. Multiple facilities, thousands of animals per year. They reckon 4,500 to be precise, tended to by their staff and volunteers, along with services including animal control and rescue across the Whatcom County as well. So if you are interested in checking out what Whatcom Humane Society can do for animals, make sure to visit their website at whatcomhumane.org there on your screen, and I believe also linked in the description tonight. And, well, going to come back to the championship situation once again, because we've just been given a little bit more information on how the pro class fight is going to go here. Thanks to Robert Northway for sending in this information, Ryan. And, well, it's going to be pretty important. Pretty much, as we said, confirmation that Robert Northway, second place tonight, if Thomas Hinz wins, is enough to secure the title. But then we've got a few more numbers to break down. If Hinz drops back to second place, Northway, sixth or better is enough to win. Third place for Hinz, eighth place or better for Northway. Fourth place for Hinz, 10th or better for Northway. And fifth place or worse for Thomas Hinz tonight. And in fact, that will be a finishing result, is all Northway will need. He's feeling fairly confident. Pole for all 7 oval races in the Majors Series this year through the pre-qualifying system the Majors uses. So he'll be up front tonight to make sure he puts his best foot forward from the green flag.
Interesting that. Northway assuming he needs to finish second if Hinz wins. Jay had it one spot better, third place if Hinz wins. So we might be up for an interesting game of quick maths if we get towards that scenario at the end of this race. It's a 267 lap race, Daniel. 8 sets of tyres, 7 after you start the race to play with, and a pit window between 60 to 64 green flag laps. Expect a lot of drivers trying to go as long as they can, but we also heard from Northway, Daniel, that a big difference between short run and long run cars, and that's going to create some interesting strategy decisions as well.
Oh, you bet it will. These cars obviously will eat up their tyres in due course if you're not careful. So you need to make sure you've got a car, you would think, But you want to have a car underneath you that can take you the distance, if that's going to be what we get here with some long green flag runs. And well, let's now walk you through the grid here for the championship finale at Homestead Miami Speedway. And indeed, as Northway indicated to us here, another pole position for him here tonight will put him on the inside of that front row. Daniel Stevens will be the man in second place to start this race tonight. Jason Martin joins the Majors Series here tonight, here in the finale as well. As it so happens, he'll be starting out of third place with Sam Harper alongside him in fourth. Shane Bowen and Gavin Barber to round out row number 3. And then we go over the page to find Dwayne Burns, Josh Thomas, Dean Moll, and Thomas Hinz starting all the way back in 10th place. He's got a lot of work to do here. Fingers crossed that might be a sign we've got a car there that's been set up for the long run tonight rather than one lap pace, at least initially. Jonathan Bean will round out our 11 Pro Class drivers, with Phil Otto taking the pole position in Sportsman there with 12th outright here tonight, Ryan.
Yep, Joe Trevethan needs to pretty much win and hope a lot goes his way if he wants to claim the Sportsman title. He goes from second in class ahead of Stuart Elder. Jake Fox and Nick McMillan on row 8, Julian Mookie, Joshua Robertson on row 9, ahead of Matt Chalker, Connor Brown and James Catchpole rounding out your field. 21 starters for this race. Just enough to make this one very exciting no matter which way it goes.
It sure will indeed. And just coming back to the championship situation, I believe Northway's numbers actually line up with ours still, because it's if Northway finishes second, he secures the title, whereas therefore in reverse, Thomas Hinz, if he wins, will need Northway back in third place to take that off him there tonight. So that lines up between what we were expecting and what Robert Northway has provided to us. But yeah, not only that fight in the Pro Division, but also the Sportsman category with the top 3 in contention. Your drivers here tonight on Zoom: Sam Harper top left, Shane Bowen center top, Phil Otto top right, Dan Stevens middle left, Gavin Barber dead center, Thomas Hinz center right, and Jonathan Bean down the bottom there. We are going to get the green flag here in just a moment's time. Northway and Stevens at the front of the field are going to take the green here. Through the restart zone we come, and we get this race underway. The championship finale is go.
Even jump, as you'd expect. Start of the race now. The new restart zone rules, you've got to wait for the green flag to come out, so that guy in third, that guy in second, they can go at the exact same time as your race leader. But Northway's done a good job. Opens up a couple of car length advantage down the back straight. Martin straight up to second place and forced to the top of the racetrack as Stevens has a look down low.
Standing out, and we've already got a car there rubbing up against the fence through 3 and 4. Let's see if I can pick up who that might have been. It was a little ways on back there. I've been told it was Josh Thomas there, the 386 Kinect Avatar Camry there. As you can see him trying to work middle to high on the road here in the opening couple of laps. The rest of the field, for the most part, seems to be down low through the turns. The only exception, I think, so far, at the front of the field at least, was Jason Martin there in that purple 21 machine. Although you can see here through 3 and 4, Ryan, he's going to drop down low and follow the leaders through the corner down at the white line or thereabouts.
Yeah, early signs already that Martin's heavily looking after those tyres. He is one of the best in Australia when it comes to oval racing, and he's very good on his tyre wear. So if he starts to fade early, don't expect that to be his true pace, and expect those guys flying by him to struggle a little bit later on. We saw Sam Harper make quick work of him, and now starting to close in on the back of Daniel Stevens up there in second as a move to the inside. Shane Bowen wants to put Martin back another spot and outside of the top 5. Top 4, I should say. Can't quite get it done, and that's the power of the high side, Daniel. You get that very strong run coming off the corners.
No surprises there. Carry the speed through the turn. Get a little bit more power on early with the banking up higher there, giving a little bit more assistance to Martin as well for good measure. And then slingshot that past the driver, trying to look to your inside down the straightaways here. So single file now for your top 7 or 8 at this point in the race. It's a little bit busier further on back. You see here Thomas Hinz going around the outside of Dean Moll. Josh Thomas looking to follow on through there in the 386. So Hinz is up 2 spots now from his starting position of 10th. So making some decent early progress here Ryan, which is going to be critical, as we said, needs to make his way forward as we look out the back of the 53 machine here. As it's going to be Thomas up the inside of Mole through turns 1 and 2 as the Connect Avatar teammates trade places there in behind.
You can see a few different lanes being run back here. Hins and Clean Air now. Where does he go? He goes to the middle of the racetrack. And he's able to carry a lot more momentum into the corner. Just loses out through the middle. Longer way around the corner, of course. And on the exit, look at the run he gets here. He'll close in on the back of Gavin Barber. He'll take a very shallow entry and ensure Hins doesn't stick it up the inside.
Josh Thomas there trying to get underneath the 53 of Hins. And he's almost at the rear bumper, but again, that higher line enabling better exit speed off of the corners here. Thomas will dive in again, try and tuck in underneath the 25 of Gavin Barber as Hins continues to commit to Clean Air on the nose of the 53 here. Whilst we ride on board with Thomas, and you see there ahead of them all, Dwayne Burns was up towards the wall, and right there is really around the outside. Hins is going to take a spot initially into turn 1 off Gavin Barber. Does lose it by going high again, but nose ahead on the exit of 2. That's another spot gained around the outside for the 53. Josh Thomas wants on by as well. He'll have to go around the high side here as well. It seems Barber committed to following that low line through the turns, and that high line's working again, because look at this, Hins already alongside Dwayne Burns for P number 6.
A lot of this as well could just be pushing the tyres a little bit harder than those around him. Running that particular line, it's sort of no man's zone. He's not the inside, it's not the outside, and it's probably using up a little bit of his tyre life early on. As we take a look at the 46 out front, Robert Northway having it all his own way at the moment. He leads by about 1.5 seconds back to Sam Harper, who has gone up to second ahead of Daniel Stevens. Jason Martin fighting back, big run, and gets into the back of Stevens. Almost hooked him into the fence there. Martin thought he was entitled to that room, and he probably was, but Stevens was happy to shut the door.
Mid-speed, mid-corner momentum from Jason Martin there off of turn 2. Completely stymies the run though for him, because Stevens able to keep it down low and make sure he hangs onto the car for now. Martin swings up high through turn 3, potentially to try and clear him here, but too far back. Maybe just looking to get some clean air and look after the car, as you were saying earlier. But as a result, going up high, getting the corner speed. Down the front stretch he comes closer. Not quite close enough though at this point in time to get alongside and up the inside of Stevens. But he'll go around the outside. All the same here. And now he's got that overlap down the front stretch and slipstream from Sam Harper to boot as well.
All about that exit. If you can just stay within 1/4 of a car length from the middle of the corner, you'll be alongside them and probably ahead of them by the time you get to the next corner. Just watching Sam Harper up in the distance, he's running a very interesting line. He's entering very shallow. He's not arcing the corner so well. I think he's going to really struggle on his tyres later on if he doesn't sort that out. It's all about being smooth. Smoothness is key when it comes to oval racing. And you'll see that exemplified in Jason Martin to the inside. Sam Harper, easy work for him. In fact, I think Harper sidestepped him there.
Harper not looking to get too involved at this point, perhaps. He'll be happy to run towards the front. But, well, you see now clean air on the nose of Jason Martin's Camaro there. What can he do? Potentially to go and run down Robert Northway. But whether he's comfortable letting Northway go at this point in the race. Early days, of course, we're just on the 12th lap of 267. They'll go by reasonably quickly here, lapping in the 34-odd second mark in the mid-pack, mid-33s at this time for your race leader. Already lost about 3, nearly 4/10 of a second on the best in the race so far. That is, of course, the nature of the tyre degradation and the way you're just continuously loading these tyres, of course, with the speed down the straights. That isn't much of a breather for them, all things considered. And then through the turns, obviously try and maintain your speed, whilst also committing to a push as well. We see further on back, of course, not forgetting our Sportsman Championship fight here between Dave Trevethan and Josh Robertson. Side by side between the two of them down towards turn number 3 here. Robertson with the inside and nose ahead. Trevethan not going to fight that one on the outside. He's going to play the long game at this point and tuck in behind through the corner there.
Yeah, that's the battle for second in class. Phil Otto out in front, I think, is a dark horse for this race. He does a lot of oval racing, and more often than not, can just consistently keep himself out of trouble, put in solid lap times, and find himself towards the front at the end of the race. So keep an eye on him to spring an overall surprise, perhaps, towards the end of this one in 250 laps time.
Look forward to seeing what he can do there. We do have Phil on the Zoom feed tonight with the over shoulder cam here, as you can see, and watch him here. Maybe a bit of a moment there just to pause and relax, and then ease the steering on into turn one here, and then gently open it back up as well on the exit of turn two. That's all looking fairly neat and tidy for now, Ryan, from my limited understanding, apart from be smooth. That checkout in your view as well there?
Yep. I'm actually just looking at this sort of second through sixth, seventh even group now. They're all line astern, running high 33s or 34 zeros, depending on who the driver is, and that pretty much matches Northway out front. I just feel that Martin's the benchmark here on an oval, and if you're running behind Martin and there's a guy 2.5 seconds out in front of him, it's not likely that guy out front has been kind to his tyres early on. I keep talking about tyres because it is one of the biggest deciding factors on oval racing. It's not like a road course where you can easily defend if you're a little bit slower. On an oval, barring a few tracks, it's very easy to get around someone who is chewing up their stuff and their equipment. So, got to be nice. And it's the first 5 laps really that are critical. If you skyrocket those temperatures early on, it's very hard to get them back. And we did see Martin fall back very early, being very conservative before he moved his way back through. As we go on board with Gavin Barber here, he's at the back of this little group, running in 6th. You can see the multi-groove racing happening in front of him.
They'll work their way down to turns 1 and 2.
How's the lean?
Solid bit of lean, but that lean is not so much from himself. That's from the seat mover, if not the full motion rig underneath his cockpit tonight, as we've noticed and actually seen for a couple of rounds. Watch, if not every time we've seen Gavin on the Zoom feed here for the Major Series this year, certainly got himself kitted out to feel a little extra through the rig, as well as his steering here. And so far, doing him a decent job running at the back of that lead group. As we check back in here with there's Trevethan now out alone. Robertson and Jake Fox are going to go side by side through turn 1. And Fox able to get up the inside, and Robertson is definitely not fighting that one at this stage, I'd say, because that was not a lot of defense, despite having the potential to run faster through the latter half of the turn. You'll see he'll get on the back of Fox again through 3, and actually swings it up high through the midcorner. That didn't particularly look optimal there.
That's a mistake. I think he got caught out by the speed of that car in front, thought he might make contact, and so just let the car dart right. But if you want to run the top, you've got to commit to it before the corner. You can't go up there halfway through the corner because you've washed off all your momentum. You go up there, you've got no momentum to carry.
Indeed. Actually, a reminder that Robertson has actually started this race back in 18th outright. Gained 3 places currently. Are we potentially therefore seeing the start of a car that's starting to struggle with tyres here? 20 laps of a green flag run. We're about 1/3 distance in on a tank of fuel. Is it entirely plausible we're seeing at this point that Robertson has pushed a bit too hard too early and now is starting to suffer the consequences for it?
Not just him, Sam Harper as well loses out to Daniel Stevens. Jason Martin's checked out from this group. He's hunting down Northway. Remember, I called that gap at, 2.5? It's down to 1.6 now. So Martin's chewing in. We're definitely seeing this. So 20 laps in. Keep that in mind for our later stints. That's when drivers are starting to really struggle. The ones that have eaten through their tyres early on.
Of course, keep in mind that might be beneficial if you can hang on in these longer runs. If we get a late brace of cautions, and therefore it's going to be down to who's got the car that can punch hard and fast over a short final. that could obviously be important as well indeed. But at this point, indeed, Jason Mark continuing to edge his way ever closer to the race lead of Robert Northway. Is further on back there, we just see Phil Otto actually getting around Jonathan Bean. So Otto actually puts a Pro Class car in between him and his Sportsman competitors here. But Dave Trevethan's not going to hang around, although doesn't get the entry to 1 and 2, I don't think. Although Bean will be somewhat compliant and allow Trevethan through on the inside at turn 2 there. That Fox will be looking to make his way through as well in the not distant future. Nick McMillan has gotten by Josh Robertson as well. So yeah, more evidence to the fact there, I'd say, at the 256 of Robertson really starting to drop away, or really has more of a short run car underneath him tonight at this point in time. How much of the pit stop adjustments could maybe bring that 256 back in terms of a long pace run? Or is that more of an initial setup thing, or is that a driver technique thing that can maybe change things around there for them?
Well, when you pit, you've got 2 adjustments, and it's your spring offset at the front, the left rear, and the right rear. And then you can change your front brake bias, and that's all you can do in the car. Not as much adjustability as the previous generation of car, and so it's tough. If you haven't got it right, it's very hard to bring it back to where you need it to be. In real life, they can make tire pressure adjustments and all that. You can't do that in the sim, so yeah, you've got to get that setup right. And that's why I don't run open setup races. I'm all about that fixed setup life.
Oh, fair enough. If you just want to get into racing and knowing that everyone's going to be working with the same material as you, it's just a man who can master the setup best in that case. Fair enough indeed. Certainly be a daunting prospect to say the least when it comes to the intricacies of oval car setup. As JM Thomas has just dropped in behind several of our sportsman class cars as we're riding on board with Shane Bowen here, who's currently tucked up behind Thomas Hinz there. So 4, 5, 6 on the road as Bowen's looking quite racy here at this point. Obviously slipstreaming with this pack of cars, but here's Thomas just to bring him up because, yeah, he was obviously in amongst that group of Pro Class drivers, and now maybe starting to fade as well. He goes up high, very high now through 3 and 4. Is again another driver trying to preserve their car. He'll drop in behind Nick McMillan, which means there's 4 sportsman cars, and then we get to the last 2 in that Pro division. So things really starting to get shaken up here as this opening green flag run continues.
Yeah, Joshua Thomas is really struggling. I think he's got the worst of it. Mid 35 from him, and a big wobble on corner exit just off screen behind these guys. I'm just riding a ball with him on my sim at the moment to see what's going on, and it's not pretty. That right rear is ultra hot right now, and he's struggling to even touch the throttle without breaking loose mid-corner. That's something I've struggled with for a few races, is that right rear getting really hot, and it makes the car almost undrivable. It can send you around so easily, and that, I believe, is what he's contending with now. His fastest lap of the race is actually a 10th quicker than Jason Martin's, so that tells you a little bit about what he was doing at the start of this race.
Yeah, that does say a lot indeed. Started 8th tonight, but now down in 14th outright and 10th in the class. So, James Thomas going to have his work cut out for him. Going to have to hope for some yellows to shorten things up, you would think then. Or maybe just be a little bit more gentle the next time we get a longer green flag run in this race. Back up towards the top 5 here with Thomas Hinz leading Shane Bowen, Dwayne Burns, and then you got Dean Mole and Gavin Barber, all still lined up pretty much single file at this point in the stint here. And the question is, well, Hinz has also still end up behind Sam Harper, so we've still got these cars 4th all the way down to 9th there on your timing tower. He's just about a second between all of them at this point in the race. No one looking to make moves, it would seem. They're all happy to continue riding where they are at and manage the pace and tyres, I think. Although that particular time there through 1 and 2, yeah, a little different lines there from Hinz and Bowen in particular.
It's not so much being happy to ride, but knowing that if you do go for a move and you don't get it complete, you don't want to get stuck side by side, because that can result in you scrubbing your tyres a little bit, trying to overdrive the car, get that move done, and also cost you momentum and open you up to an attack from the car behind. So it's all about picking your moments. If I was one of these drivers, I would be just experimenting with that higher line. I want to go run the top that I was running in practice and see if it's still as quick as it was earlier on, because now that we're 30 laps into the stint, these drivers are running about 1.5 seconds slower than they were at the start of the race, which means they're spending a lot of time off the throttle.
They will be indeed. 34.9 for your race leader, 35.0 for Daniel Stevens in P3, an indication of just how gentle they're having to be. Although Stevens, the only car in the 35s until you get down to Jake Fox in that 08 Sportsman entry. But crucially, fastest man out on track at the moment is still well and truly Jason Martin. That gap, as you said, it was 2 seconds by the time he had worked his way forward to second place. And now inside 0.3 of a second. Martin is looking absolutely rapid at this point in the race. All things relatively speaking, pulls another 1/10.5 on your race leader, Robert Northway. But Dan Stevens has also picked up the pace there on this last lap as well. Gets himself back into the high 34s. There's a lot more 35s this time around, Ryan, I'm seeing as the lap times come in as the field circulates around here. And there you go, to the inside. Robert Northway will yield the lead to Jason Martin on the entry to turn 3, but again, a little bit more speed at the middle point, but there is nothing there to contest on the exit of 4.
Yeah, no contest at all, really. Jason Martin, he is lapping about 3 to 4 tenths quicker than Northway at the moment, and he was in his dirty air, so he will check out for the rest of this stint, I dare say. And I'm a little bit surprised, actually, how much some of these drivers are falling off the pace so early. We're only halfway through our expected stint length. It's really troubling for some of these drivers, and you can blow the tyres out now if you drive it too hard, and we may start to see a couple of drivers getting close to that. Normally you spin out before that happens because the car becomes pretty treacherous to drive. As we continue to look at this battle, this is for 5th place. Thomas Hinds at the front here. Remember, he started from 10th and has worked his way forward pretty methodically, but he was running that sort of nowhere line early on, and he's actually managed to drag most of the field onto that line with him through the middle of the corner. I don't think it's the optimal line. You look at where Jason Martin's running, gives you a good benchmark, and Hinds potentially just struggling to get the car turned down to meet that white line at the bottom. The progressive banking doesn't help. It takes a little bit more to get the car down to that bottom line here in Miami, but he's not going to be able to get there this lap because he's got a car to the inside, and it's the 7 of Shane Bowen. Clears him, and will be able to move up comfortably. Hinds losing a lot on corner exit there, showing a car that is a little bit unstable. He should have been able to get back to the throttle a bit quicker there.
And to work his way forward early on. And we're now into the second half of the expected green flag run. So my eyes certainly now turn to the question of, are we seeing a car that is fading in the second half of a long run? Dwayne Burns to his inside here to turn 1 and 2. You were saying this is the time now where Hinds needs to really tuck down and get back in line, because you've got a kinetic avatar freight train that started with Shane Bowen, and it will, oh, you've also got Dean Mole in behind, who would want on by as well. As I've heard a little something from a... Okay,
just saw a big moment coming out of turn 2 there, Daniel. Rear end getting loose, and that's where you're going to feel it the most. You'll get tight on entry and loose on exit. It's a nightmare to deal with, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we'll bring up the zoom feed of Hinds here, and yeah, we can have a look at it for ourselves.
So coming through the middle of 1 and 2 again, just stuck in that nowhere line, and corner exit. As the track flattens out, you can see he has to fight the wheel. Not too bad that lap. I think you've got to either hug that bottom, arc the corner, hit that white line, or commit to running right up against the wall, which is not a skill that everyone can do. You've got to have a lot of confidence in the car. You've got to really... You can attack it a couple ways, but you've got to get right up against that wall to make it work. And there's a big bump in 3 and 4 that makes it tricky up against that fence as well. I still firmly believe there is speed to be found up there if someone would just go and find it. But another big moment. Look further up the field though. Sam Harper's coming under pressure, continuing to run his shallow line. He is beating the white line, but he's washing out mid-corner. So he's Oh, big wiggle for him there on the bottom side of the racetrack. As he tried to move up the banking, the rear end stepped out. Bowen goes around the outside. Harper loses momentum, and Dwayne Burns will stick a nose up there as well. Just straddling that banking change between the first lane and the second lane. Works well for him. Moves up.
Get a chance to see there Shane Bowen, one of our drivers in virtual reality for this series. The other one that we can see is Sam Harper on the Zoom feed as we check back in with the guys at the front of the sportsman category. And it's becoming a two-horse race in this opening phase here. Phil Otto, who's been leading this class for quite some time, now going to be able to get on, or have come under pressure, I should say, from Jake Fox. So seeing another car that's coming alive here as this stint continues on. Otto's going to run that higher line that you said is an option there if you can hang on to it. Not all the way up against the wall, though. And that will allow Jake Fox through on the inside of 1 and 2 up to 10th place outright. And now your new leader of the sportsman division.
Yeah, what I've seen from everyone trying to go up top at the moment is they're trying to drive it like it's the bottom. It's not. You've got to be more brave. You can carry more speed in and then get on the throttle a lot earlier because you're not putting as much steering angle through the car. As Harper continues to lose out. Remember, I said Harper was probably going to struggle as this run went on, and that's proving true. That shallower entry for him not working out. You've got to arc these corners. Harper's not been doing that. He's still not doing it. Look how much earlier he turns into the corner there. And he ends up at the same point as Dean Moll. So he's using more slip angle through the tyre to get to the same result. And that's why he's struggling.
Yeah, definitely plenty of different circumstances at this point in the race as the drivers keep trying to work their cars around the circuit here. As the pace dropped off, and the fact that the best lap last time around was a 35.07, which looks to have been in the hands of Dwayne Burns in 5th place on the road, as the inside Harper will look, and that might just force the issue with Thomas Hinds here, as we've actually got our first bit of lap traffic as well. The number 51 of Connor Brown goes a lap down on the majority of the drivers here in the pro class, and unfortunately for him, he's had an absolute shocker there of a 37.8 at this point in time, and he hasn't come to the pits either. This has simply been a case of just fading performance, it would suggest, from this car here. So not in a great spot, personally speaking, for him at this point early on. There's Harper through on Thomas Hinds whilst all that was happening there, whilst we're discussing the fate there of Connor Brown. Is, well, first car to the pit lane. It's going to be the 31 of Dean Moll. 44 laps into this one here. Pulls on down to the lane early there at turn 4. So going to commit to an early stop, it would seem, at this first stint of the race.
Going for a 6th stop if this was to go green. About lap 44 to hit that 6th stop strategy. So he's going to take an extra pit stop on this race. Seeing the struggles everyone's having with tyre wear. Could work out for him. Harper now up top as he's side by side again. We see the 256 come to pit road. A few drivers electing for this strategy. Now, what sort of gain is he going to get? We want to go based off the leader. Jason Martin's been doing low 35s for the last half a dozen laps. He seems to have plateaued out at that point, which is 1.8-ish seconds off the quickest time we've seen today. So it's going to be about a 1.5 seconds lap quicker for those drivers pitting now. And they'll get that gain for about 20 laps. But it'll progressively fade out as the run goes on. And it will seesaw back and forth. Stuart Elder pulls the trigger on a pit stop as well on that. A distinctive Chevy, Toyota. I didn't get a good look at it.
I believe that one there is a Ford Mustang, so you picked out the other two that it could have been. Unfortunately. Yeah, but indeed. Oh, the first caution has come. And how about that? At turn number 4, Josh Thomas, the 386, has come unstuck. So there we go. Coming to the end of the first green flag stint, says seemingly cause some trouble. Let's go to our first virtual racing school replay, Ryan, and see just how this has unfolded for Thomas here. Looks like it's coming to the pit lane.
This is the danger of pitting early. You get trapped a lap down. And yeah, just got onto that banking too early. And once you got 2 tyres on the flat apron and 2 tyres on the banked corner, it's unsavable at this point, especially if the tyres have got very little grip left in them. So Dean Mole, there's a few drivers, Dean Mole, Connor Brown, Joshua Thomas himself, Stuart Elder, and Joshua Robinson's actually 2 laps down. So they're all going to have to stay out here to get back on the lead lap. And that means they'll restart at the back of the field on tyres that are a couple laps older than those in front of them. It's a lose-lose situation for those blokes, as Jason Martin brings everybody else down onto pit road.
He will indeed. Well, first stop in the race. You would think at this point we should see everyone take 4 tyres at this point in the race. But,
I'd happily bet my house on it.
yes.
And I do so because I don't have a house.
Well, that explains a bit there as everyone pops into the lane, not seeing any dramas there for anyone. So who will win the race off of pit road? It should be Jason Martin, you'd think, but time's ticking up. 15 seconds for Martin. He is indeed going to be the first away off the lane, although a couple of tenths faster for a few drivers. In the end, what does it matter? It'll be Martin from Northway, from Dan Stevens, Shane Bowen, Dwayne Burns, Thomas Harper, not Thomas Harper, Sam Harper from Thomas Hins. Gavin Barber, your top 8 there in the pro class, and top 8 out of the pits there.
Jason was never going to get overtaken in pit lane unless he made a mistake there, because there was a big gap between him and Robert Northway as they came into the lane. The field hadn't quite caught up to each other yet, and as Martin caught the pace car and opened the pit lane, he had a bit of margin in hand, and that allowed him to make a nice, smooth pit stop. Those couple of tenths of a difference in your pit stop time can make all the difference if you're really maximising on pit road, going down there a kilometre over the actual speed limit, which you can get away with, maximising how late you brake into your pit box, and then your acceleration out of the pit box. Very easy to spin the tyres and lose time. There's actually quite a lot to it, getting that whole pit sequence perfect.
Of course, there is. And, yeah, hitting your marks, pulling it up right on the way, well, pulling up on the way into hit your marks, and getting away right on the exit. All valuable bits of information that we need to pull off. So, probably came at just about the right time for most people here to get a pit stop ticked off and squared away. You can see here behind the iRacing pace car, the first car there is Stuart Elder in the 115, who will get a wave around here in a moment's time. Get himself up from P number 20. He won't get it up from P21 because it's tucked in behind. D Mole is also just in behind him as well. We'll get that wave around as well here in a moment. Elder, unfortunately, has gone 2 laps down in the process of taking his pit stop and everything so far. So we should hopefully get lights out on the pace car this time by. That'll get us 1 lap to green, and we'll get ready to go racing once again with the start of lap 52.
Using the new restart zone rules. So at the start of the race, you have to wait for the green flag to be waved, and that means the leader often finds themselves getting swamped a little bit as everyone goes at the same time. But on these subsequent restarts, the leader can choose to go at any point in that restart zone. If they don't, the green flag will automatically wave and everyone will be let loose. Another factor as well, which is more of a problem that Phoenix, where the pace car peels off half a lap early, is you've got to maintain pace speed. So unless the leader slows down, if you're the car on the outside and you're not yet fully alongside that lead car when the pace car peels down, you're stuck. You can't speed up anymore to get a little bit more ground and get alongside them. So Northway here will want to close up a bit before the pace car jumps to pit road.
Well, that's important to note, because can I tell you a little something here, that Robert Northway has experienced a black flag from iRacing due to these start rules back when we ran at Martinsville in the late models for our short track adventure for the Virginia 300 not that long ago now. So he's a little familiar, I guess, in the sense of when things don't go right. You can see here he's actually not fully alongside for this first restart of the race. Into the restart zone we go. Martin goes fairly early. We're back to racing here on that 52 of 267 here for the championship finale of the Major Series.
Northway fires it to the top of the racetrack. Carried that throttle a long way into the corner. And gonna get a very good exit here. This could be on down the back straight. Martin, down low, did a pretty good job, to be fair to him. So Martin will lead, but a little mistake. Entered a little bit higher than he wanted to. That's going to allow Northway to the inside. Martin falls back to second. And the games begin as Martin looks after his tyres in the early half a dozen laps of the stint.
Suggested to be the case once again as the shuffling is happening further on back. I'm watching there. Julian Mookie's made his way forward under the safety car and the restart of this one so far. But Dave Trevethan there has dropped a fair ways back. Was actually right up with Mookie a moment ago, but in these first couple of laps here after restarting, starting to struggle. That's a car right up in the fence up there. Can't quite pick out who that is at the moment. Being told it might have been Josh Thomas, and indeed can confirm it was Josh Thomas, the 386, deciding that, finding the wall and stuck on the wall. As, oh my word there, how about that? One of our sportsman drivers, James Catchpole, the 021, really hanging around the outside there, down there around turn 2, and just keeping it off the fence, thanks to just having enough space there to his inside.
Yeah, Julian Murphy got the hell out of Dodge on that one. He was stuck in the middle and wanted no part of that. Happily bled the throttle and allowed those two to sail by. They're still stuck side by side here. Nick McMillan on the inside, James Catchpole up top. Should clear him off the exit of 2 here. And he does, but wow, he gets close to that safer barrier that lines this circuit and every NASCAR circuit now, pretty much. Stevens puts the blowtorch to Martin. If any of these guys have any sense, they would just mirror Martin. That's what I do in NASCAR. I just match whatever Martin does, and it works pretty well because then you know you're not hurting your tires, and you're gonna have about the same tire wear as that guy in front. And you know from the first 50 laps of that race, that guy in front was lightning quick after a few laps had passed.
Sure was indeed. So for all the good of Robert Northway getting clean air on the nose, that might not be all that helpful once the laps tick on by. Although, so far, he's only pulled half a second, and I think might have just stabilised at around that marker for this part of the race. It's still very much on here among these sportsman drivers, with Dean Moe actually tucked in behind Julian Mookie here, so one of our Pro Class drivers out of position at the moment, and also Josh Thomas still in amongst it all. The first of our drivers 1 lap down at the current time. Thomas looking to try and work his way through a bit, get some track position, and then hope for another caution when he'll be able to pick up a lucky dog and get his lap back and join everyone once again on the lead lap of this race. Clearly got some pace in that car once again as he makes his way off of turn 4 there. I'm going to go past Mole and Mookie here if he can get it done right, but no. A little too hot into turn 1. We'll lose the run here at turn 2 in the process there and slot back in behind.
Keep an eye on Mookie later in the stint. He is driving very slowly right now in terms of what he was doing at the start of the first stint, about 0.6 of a second slower over the first 5 laps. Looking back from Jason Martin further up the field though, he's held on to second place, and I think a lot of those drivers behind him have clued on to the fact that they need to do what he's doing. You can see Stevens getting close, but not really looking to get by. The gap to the lead and Robert Northway is stabilised as well at somewhere between half a second and a second.
Yeah, it looks like despite the fact that Dan Stevens is keeping within a car length there of the bumper of Jason Martin, not feeling the pressure. He's the driver of the 21 machine here, happy to run down the low line there through 1 and 2, as likewise here in this drive for 6th place. Thomas Hins now clear of Sam Harper after the restart. Harper though still looking racing. In fact, will commit to the outside here this time through 3 and 4, but not close enough to challenge on the exit of 4 at least. Has some decent speed on the front stretch, of course, due to that faster corner, but won't be able to make anything of it just yet. He will commit, though, to the high line through 1 and 2. You can see that difference, of course, sending it in high, and allowing himself to carry that extra speed into the turn and try and make it work here. This time he's close, and this time he will go to the inside for turn 3 and aim to get that place off of the 53 machine once more.
There you go. There's some proof that the outside does have some life in it. And when he went to the high side through 3 and 4, he didn't get on the throttle early enough. He's actually running 4th gear. Now, it's entirely possible that's a mistake, because I've made that mistake. Remember, these cars went to 5 gears this year, and it takes a while to get to that 5th gear on some tracks. And 4th gear feels nice enough that sometimes you just forget there's another one to be had. But the issue he will eventually face if he stays in 4th gear is his oil and water temps. Really revving that car high at the end of the straights. Look, as he gets to the end of the straight here, watch that big number, 8,000, 9,000, redlining down towards turn 1, up to 9,700 RPM. It's not great for the longevity of your engine.
Yeah, it is interesting, of course, with the next-gen car changes this year. 5-speed sequential versus the old 4-speed H pattern making its way into the drivetrain of these cars. And there's, of course, yeah, you should know that 4th is a viable option despite the fact that, you know, you do have a 5th gear there that should give you most of the speed you want in a straight line.
There's also a tyre wear factor to it, unbelievably.
Now, of course there is.
The lower gear you run, the more your tyres slip. There's technical terms that I have long purged out of my memory, apparently. But basically, the lower the gear, the higher the wheel spin. That applies on road and oval.
Yeah, that does make sense, funnily enough. The concept of having better power response and not being as sluggish does seem to check out in terms of, well, that would make the rears a little bit more excited in this particular case. So we'll see here if other drivers commit to that same kind of strategy, or if they'll make their way up to 5th gear at some point. Whether it's a thing, maybe try and take advantage of some tyre early on, but then make sure you get to 5th so you don't burn off too much, as Dean Mole is continuing to work his way forward, get back to the guys in the pro group ahead. Now up to 14th place. And the next one for him will be Jake Fox in the 08 machine, although he's got about a second to go catch up to do so with the rest of this class. Here you can see our pro drivers, Sam Harper, Gavin Barber, and Shane Bowen on your screen. Now on board we can go with, pardon me, this is Gavin Barber, apologies, in the middle of the group here with zoom camera and all. So he'll be happy to run 5th gear, gets it up to about 9,300 RPM. In contrast to what we were seeing, you said there, from drivers in 4th at 9,700 or so. So, you know, straighten the steering up a bit there early, I think. So, having to start to look after the tyres once again at this point in the stint.
There are 7 drivers running 4th gear. Here's one.
Yes, there's going to be Sam Harper once again.
The setup can have a bit to do with that as well. You can set the car up to be a little bit quicker, a little bit slower overall. Final drive ratio makes a difference.
It will indeed, of course. Very true, those points. And actually, be curious to watch his rev range through the corners as to whether that makes him more vulnerable to wheel slip and spin in the traction and the power zones. But still has just a little bit of headroom left on that engine for now, as he continues to work in behind the number 19 of Dwayne Burns for 4th place on the road. Thomas Lintz has dropped back into P8 at this stage while this has all been happening. Ryan, clearly I think, I would hope for his sakes, that that's a strategic play. Let the group tow him round rather than trying to go chase, and let it be early days for everyone in the race, and not be too concerned about his position on the track at this point in time.
Starting to close up at the front of the field, Daniel. Robert Northway, is slipping backwards to Jason Martin. Lap time for Northway last lap of 34.3. It was a 34.1 for Jason Martin and a 34.1 for Daniel Stevens. Top three covered by less than a second.
Yeah, he's working their way back to the leader. You see, of course, even Jason Martin is slowly dropping slightly when it comes to lap times at this point. But again, continued preservation and clearly having the long run car underneath him continuing to pay off as these laps go on by. Looks like up towards the front of the sportsman class, James Catchpole's made his way to, or looking to make his way to the lead of the group, but Phil Otto will hang on the low side through 1 and 2 there and take that lead of the class back and give McMillan potentially an option there. It will not, thanks to the high line speed from Catchpole down the back stretch. Although McMillan's going to look to the inside. That gets close and down to the white line. Runs both cars up through turn 3 there. Thankfully, neither car going to make contact there, but only by the skin of their teeth, Ryan. That could easily have gone a whole lot worse for both drivers involved. We stay green, thankfully, as a result of that evasion from the 021. McMillan will take the place here at turn 1.
Oh, Bowen throws it to the inside at the last second, coming out of turn 2. Bowen moves his way past Gavin Barber in the battle for 6th position. Battle for 4th, really, because Dwayne Burns is leading the way there in 4th gear. Sam Harper in 4th, Shane Bowen in 4th. Otto, McMillan, Mole, Jake Fox. They're all the drivers. They're electing to run that 4th gear at the moment.
Interesting to note there indeed. So a select few, that's for sure. But it's working indeed. Now, why am I seeing Joshua Robertson dropping away like a stone at the very back of the field? We're going to go to a virtual racing school replay in the meantime. Looks like it's nothing too crazy, although in saying that, the replay is of Joshua Robertson. Comes into turn 1 up high and, you know, just going to let... Nope, comes down and finds the fence.
Got loose.
All his troubles.
Got loose, overcorrected, snapped it into the wall. Did a good job, though, not to spin out.
Oh.
I'm going to call that a good save.
He's having to save it a little bit more. I've just actually happened to go live with him there whilst we were wrapping up the replay, and he had a massive snap at exit of turn 2. So unfortunately for Robertson, one of our Sportsman Championship contenders, look how much wheel work he's having to do there on the exit of turn 4 as well. The rear end of that 256 has got absolutely nothing in it for him, and we're only 25 laps into this stint. Not even, actually, because we went green again on 52.
Well, in 20 laps, that's about the point we saw drivers struggling in the first stint, isn't it? Was it him that we saw having those big issues with the right rear early on at the start of the race?
That was Josh Thomas.
That was Josh Thomas. Well, close enough.
But Robertson was certainly having his own troubles and dropping well down the order. And yeah, that is an unhappy car because again through 4, it is all kinds of loose. And he's already down a lap on the leaders. It could easily become 2 if that car continues to fight him. He is now a second almost off the pace, off the leaders. And again, he goes loose through 2. Oh my goodness, Robertson is hanging on by the skin of his teeth. The slip angle is getting bigger and bigger with every lap. He tries to put the power down out of turns 2 and 4 here. It's going to be a wild ride for Robertson here as this stint carries on.
The problem he's having is he's doing it every corner, and so the tyres just getting hotter and hotter. He needs to just take a good 20 steps back and ease the car through a couple of laps, and that right rear will get back under control, and he'll be able to drive the car again. But right now, he's doing less driving and more drifting. I think we're going to see a caution here in the next half a dozen laps.
We might just indeed. In fact, several spots just changed. There, a bit of a flurry on the timing tower that I've just seen there. First of all, Thomas Hins through on Gavin Barber. Moves the 53 up to 7th. Barber back to 8th place. Seems that the 25 is starting to drop from the back of the group here in the pro class. Jonathan Bean, I believe I saw getting past Julian Mookie as well. I can't confirm that if I actually bothered to have a look at some information there. Hins on Barber. There's Matt Chalker getting by Jonathan Bean. Apologies there. Shane Bowen also getting by Sam Harper in all of that. We had Julian Mookie passing James Catchpole amongst that group of sportsman cars as well. So a lot of activity in a handful of seconds all occurring. But we'll take a chance to go back to the front of the field because, again, Jason Martin inside 0.3 of a second to Robert Northway is coming back with a vengeance, though this time Dan Stevens happy to ride shotgun and stay on the rear bumper. Just as you said earlier, Ryan, he's looking after his car, it seems, and therefore reaping the rewards as this stint carries on.
Northway's doing a good job, though. He's held on a lot longer than he did in the first stint. And he looks comfortable. It's the only word I can find there. Still watching Robertson on one screen. Just catching my breath a little bit. So Northway's hanging on. Martin's going to have to be a little bit aggressive to find a way by. If there is one little fault in Jason Martin that I could find after racing with him for a few years, it's his aggressiveness. He is incredibly clean, incredibly quick, and incredibly good in the long run. But he struggles sometimes to make the big moves that have to be made. It doesn't have to be a big move to get the lead this time, though. Northway sails on by. Northway sees Martin sail on by, and he'll watch Daniel Stevens do the same. So just keep that in mind for the end of the race. If you get a green light check-in, depending on where Martin is, might not be the favourite.
Good to note there, indeed, as Northway tried to get up the inside of Stevens at turn 4 there, but not able to get the foot down as we ride on board with the number 3 middle finger racing machine. They work their way into turns 1 and 2, I should say here, or getting back down to the low line through the middle of the corner there. And just reminded by Jake Kennedy, thanks to the Zoom feed that Dan Stevens rides, we can well and truly tell that which gear Dan is in. Thank you for that fantastic observation, Mr. Kennedy. Indeed, we can't quite catch it on the in-game dash thanks to the angle of the zoom camera, but yes, thanks to the litany of accessories Mr. Stevens has for his additional immersive pleasure. And gives us a bit more to work with as well here in the comms box.
Northway. Just falling back, getting very close to the fence, and Robertson as well. Getting more sideways than he's ever been before, I think, in this race. Is side-by-side action. In between those two drivers, it's Jonathan Bain and Julian Mookie. They're running 12th and 13th, 14th and 15th. I'll get there eventually. I'm rusty, Eamon, as Joshua Thomas sneaks up the inside as well.
Ins through on Sam Harper for 6th place at the same time while this is all happening. Just there at the exit of turn number 2. We've also had Nick McMillan get by the part was Matt Chalking by Julian Demol by Nick McMillan. Too many Kinect Avatar cars, and they're all in similar colours. So I'm gonna pull that excuse, despite being on Majors commentary for the majority of this year, and they've been around plenty of races this year to boot as well. And how about that from Jason Martin? We've been checking out the rest of the field for about 3 laps. He's gone and pulled a second on Dan Stevens. Northway's hanging with the number 3 machine, but with clean air, again, in the back half of a green flag run, Martin just says, all right, I'm out, see you. Catches the next yellow.
And when he was sat behind Northway for about 10 or so laps there, just about half a second, quarter of a second behind him, he's getting that dirty air. You can't see it, and oftentimes you don't consciously feel it, but it's there. And it's not so bad some tracks, it's pretty bad on other tracks. It's really hard to gauge until you talk to the drivers after the race and go, how was the dirty air tonight? But it definitely plays a factor. Not as bad as Formula 1, but it's there.
It is indeed. Josh Robertson actually is going to throw the white flag on the Ailing 256. He will come to the lane for a second time tonight, and get that car sorted out. He last came in on lap 44. So, again, not able to go the distance that everyone else is. And unfortunately, that will put him now 2 laps, if not 3 laps, off the race lead of Jason Martin. And
if it goes... Sorry.
Just to say, yeah, it's obviously not with Martin that his race is with, but one of the 3 who were fighting for that sportsman class championship, and it's really not gone all that well given Mookie and Trevethan still sitting there up towards the front of the class. Still being plenty patient here, as speaking of Mookie, he's going to have Matt Chalker look to the outside of him through turns 3 and 4 here, but Mookie going to hang on down on that lower line there and power out of the corner in comparison to what Chalker's got underneath him there.
Important to talk about Robertson and his potential routes back in, given he is a contender in the sportsman standings. If this goes green for a little while, he should be able to get a couple laps back at least. Of course, I mean 1 lap back at least. He's running about a 1.5 lap quicker. That's what he should be running compared to the race leader.
Can do a mid 33.
Yeah, he's basically maintained the same strategy he was on before that caution came out, which is probably a mistake because he's done 30 laps instead of 40 on that set of tyres, but we could see he was really struggling. But he's leading the Sportsman Championship and he needs to do something. He can't finish last in this race.
No, he certainly cannot. Stuart Elder also comes into the pits early, just like he did on the first stint of the 115 Ford Mustang. Peels on it. Dean Mole will also join them as being drivers to pit early as Matt Chalker's around down on the apron. But because he's down on the apron, we're going to stay green here, aren't we, Ryan?
Yep. Big moment. Not just for him, but for those drivers coming to pit road and who have already pitted, as I just saw more smoke in front of Robertson there. That could have just been the remnants of Matt Chalker. As we see a virtual racing school replay.
Straddles the apron.
It's like a carbon copy.
Just without a full 360 that we did see, unfortunately, from Josh Thomas. So, there you go. And the driver who's going to take a little bit more conservatively is the 019 and Jonathan Bean. He'll actually use the access road down off of turn number 4 there. Turn 3, sorry, rather than try and bring it down off the banking in the middle of 3 and 4, right before pit entry. So obviously, that's the other option you do have at Homestead Miami, is you can be a little conservative if you so choose, and would rather make sure of it, though you will obviously give up a good chunk of time in the process by going down to that access road.
It is very slow, peeling off before turn 3 to make a pit stop. Purple sectors, purple laps, Joshua Robertson going along pretty nicely, 33.9 last time for him. It's not setting the world alight, but it's improvements for him for what he was doing. Another 33.9. Not sure where those purple sectors are gone that Jay said he was setting, but he's consistent. 33.98, 33.90, 33.99, 33.92.
Bang in a couple more 33.9s. Keep picking up over a second a lap on your race leaders. In fact, that's Jonathan Bean he's going to pass by, but Bean's just coming back up to speed after pitting. There on lap number 90 for him. Still, hopefully get a chance to get a lap back as this green flag run will continue a little longer here. With everyone coming into the pits on lap 48 of a safety car, we should see these drivers get to over around 110, I would suspect then, or even 115 maybe, thanks to the safety car and caution period stretching that stint. So we are still a ways off if anyone's looking to go the distance on the tank of fuel. It looks like for this point in time, the drivers are happy to stretch things up towards the front of both classes here. As Thomas and Sam Harper still glued together on the track. Harper having lost the spot to Hins about 10 or so laps ago now. Looking to the inside, though, again through 3 and 4, forces Hins up off that white line into that no man's zone. No man's land that you were making reference to earlier there, Ryan.
These two glued together, it seems, this stint. And Hins is making that line work pretty well. But you can see how much Harper gains on corner entry. And if he didn't push up the track so much in corner exit, he would gain through the exit as well. He just overdrove that corner. Let's stay on board and see how this one pans out. He's going to go to the top again. Remember, this is how he passed Hinz earlier on, but he's going to actually get up against that fence and give it a little rub. Just carried the throttle a little bit too long. Got away with it though, not big contact, and actually still gains on the exit of the corner. He'll try again. When you're running the bottom for so long and then you go to the top, generally takes a lap or two to really adjust and find the line. Because as I said earlier, it's all about your confidence and rhythm running the top of the racetrack. We're not going to see anything like we saw from Kyle Larson at Homestead, Miami a couple of weeks ago in real life when he was glued to that fence. But we are going to see the outside work as Harper used that momentum to dive to the inside of 3 and almost spun out trying to make that move work.
Serious bit of commitment there from Harper on the way in. You can see here having to fight the car on the exit, straighten out, wobble it back a little bit there, but keeps his foot pretty well pinned in it there. Take the moment while you can down the backstretch here. Goes into 3. Hinz washes up there through the corner. That's going to make him a little more vulnerable if Harper can get the car to play nice on the exit of 4, which I think he can there at this point. Work on into 1 and 2. Shows the nose. Goes low early. Hinz respects the commitment there. He's going to just swing it down there in time and cut that one off. Just enough there that it stymies the run initially for Harper, but he's close. Could easily send it this time again. No, he will go high again through 3 and 4. So try to just maybe play in the back of Hinz's mind here, switching up where he's going to be. As James Catchpole is going to bring the 021 to the pit lane, according to my timing here. And be the next driver to come for a slightly earlier stop on this second stint of the race.
That's an odd time to pit, actually. It's nowhere. Not sure about that strategy call.
Yeah, I'd say it's about 15 laps early, at least. As speaking of drivers also going to pit early, Josh Thomas going to do the same. So gets 50 laps to his tank there and his tyres. The tyres likely being the more important one. Is how's that for a demonstration of old versus new tyres? Dean Mole comes blazing past Sam Harper on the exit of 4. And he might just be able to send it up the inside of Thomas Hinz. He will indeed. Hinz sees that coming from about a mile away and decides you've got fresh tyres. You can have the bottom every day of the week in that case.
Crucially, Dean Mole right now is in, well, he is the first car a lap down, which means he is in the lucky dog position. If the caution was to come out, he would get his lap back and have the opportunity to pit and be back on exactly the same strategy as those who are still on track right now without a pit stop yet. Whereas if you're anyone else a lap down, the only way you get your lap back is by staying out and then restarting at the back with older tyres.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough gamble here because you can see he's just carving through everyone. Shane Bowen dispatched. Dwayne Burns coming up next into turn 4, I would suspect, as we jump on board with Bowen in that number 7 kinetic avatar machine. As Sam Harper calls over the radio that he'll be to the pit lane here. And Bowen too is going to come down the lane. So that's another driver coming in early. Going to see there that perhaps maybe the gamble might be on. Get a quick stop in, a quick and clean stop. And maybe be the one to put yourself in the lucky dog position. But the problem is now with 2 drivers in the pits, can they both beat out Dean Mole as that first car a lap down? Whether they can do it once they get back up to speed is yet to be seen.
So we're seeing drivers pit as Sam Harper misses his pit box. He has to reverse up, and that's very costly under green flag conditions. We're seeing drivers pit that were not having a great time on their tyres, and as a result, they're just pulling the pin early. And it's going to be a compounding effect that sees them get further and further away from the optimal strategy as this one goes on, because they're not going to be 10 laps short of what Jason Martin's doing on the next stint. They'll be 20 laps short. So it just compounds and gets worse and worse without a caution. But I would be pretty confident saying we've not seen the last yellow today, as we're not yet even at halfway
Yeah, it's still early days. And, well, as it would happen, Dean Mole has well and truly beaten Shane Bowen and Sam Harper off of the pits there. So, those sort of what we think are sort of middleman's sort of mid-marker stops in a bit of an awkward spot there. Not paying off for him. Julian Mookie's also another driver to come to the lane, and will cycle out down in 16th place outright, which is good enough for 6th in class this time. Dave Trevethan, though, is also going to pull the pin after running all the way to the first caution flag. He will stop early, so we're potentially seeing drivers with fuel mileage at this point. But actually, there can't be fuel mileage because otherwise we'd be seeing the whole field down, piling on, and we should see at least another 8 or 9 laps. Indeed. So I take that back. That's a completely ridiculous statement to make at this point in the race, because if it was fuel, everyone would be piling on in at the same time.
Robertson pitted, went back out, and he's sideways again. After he must be close. Yeah. Oh, he's gonna have a rough race, and he's gonna need quite a bit of luck to hold on to this Sportsman Championship. Mookie is in prime position at the moment. In the Pro Championship, it's looking very difficult for Thomas Hinds. Well, he hasn't shown much pace at all today, short run or long run. Robert Northway is about a quarter of a track ahead of him.
Yeah, it was a good opening start for Thomas Hinds, but yeah, as you said, not seeing that pace that he needs to bring back since that opening 15 or 20 odd laps where he was making his way up from 10th on the grid in classes. Continue to watch these drivers. Old tyres versus new. Jonathan Bean going to go around the outside of Jake Fox and teammate Gavin Barber. Same will be said for Matt Chalker there, who also came in back on lap 89. So those guys now approaching that 20 lap marker or so, where if they haven't looked after their tyres in this phase, might see them start to struggle as well. With Gavin Barber's just signal, yep, he's coming to the pits. He'll bring it down off of turn 4. You can see there, straddles the white line for a bit, but does get it straightened up and on the flat proper there.
Playing with fire on that pit entry. See if we can pinpoint when Martin pits and see how he approaches getting to pit road. It'll be a much sharper turn to the left. Won't be doing it gradually. You get the car slowed, turn left, and pretty much head straight onto pit road. None of that awkward straddling of the apron and the banking at the same time. He's just started his 60th lap, so should be within the next half a dozen. Oh, Martin almost spun out of turn 2. I reckon we'll see Martin pit this lap. He got massively sideways coming out of the corner there as the right rear starts to protest, and he is slowing down. No, he's just that slow right now. So that was rude. That's the tyre drop-off. 35.6 for Jason Martin on that lap. His fastest lap of the race is 33.4. He's over 2 seconds a lap slower right now. And Dean Mole, who just unlapped himself, did a 34.2.
Yeah, tyres well and truly at play. And there we go, confirmation from Martin. He's going to come to the pit lane on this lap. So indeed, I'd be curious to see how he attacks the pit entry in comparison to what we saw from the others. He's actually going to bring it down right to the white line. And in fact, he's got traffic behind. So actually comes down and just straddles it a tiny bit there before straightening up on the exit of turn 4. He's to the lane. Dan Stevens will carry on, as will Robert Northway. Thomas Hinds has followed Martin into the pits here at the end of lap 110, though. So starting to get towards the end of the run now, well and truly. Really going to be a question of who's got a little bit left in their cars. Jake Fox and Phil Otto are staying out here. They've got a bit more in the car, as does Nick McMillan. So your top 3 in Sportsman going to carry on here and put themselves well clear. In fact, they're actually the only 3 in Sportsman who are going long at this point in the race.
Well, I had some insight to Jason's potential, but I think that moment's passed. As he comes out, good stop, got it slowed down nicely, and will fire out of the lane. He should be behind Dean Mole, and he is. So Dean Mole becomes the effective race leader. But Jason Martin's going to have close to 20 lap fresher tyres, and just better raw car speed to run him down.
So, the laps tick away. There is one driver left to pit, and that man is Dan Stevens. You can see here, hasn't pitted since the safety car as the rest of the field is cycling out of the pit lane. That includes Robert Northway, Phil Otto, Jake Fox, and Nick McMillan. Those sportsman drivers, as a result, they'll shuffle way on back, and they're going to come out 4, 5, and 6 in class. Nope, that'll drop further on back as Catchpole is out there coming through turn 1. We'll pick all the 3 of them up here as well. And there might be some more to boot once that's done. In addition, Stevens going to keep on going here.
He was only a couple of seconds behind Martin. He'd hung on pretty well through that stint. So what he's doing here is the overcut, and he's extending his fuel window. The later he can run before pitting, obviously the further he can go in the next stint. And a bit like pitting early, it compounds. The more you save of each individual stint, it helps you later on in the day. This time he's going to come in, and look how he pits. Gets it slowed down, same as Jason Martin, on the racetrack before he turns left. That way he's not trying to get it slowed while he's trying to cross the banking, which is how you get caught up, straddling that seam and spinning like we've seen from a couple of drivers tonight. So that's a bit of experience showing there from Stevens and Jason Martin. As Dean Mole will become the race leader on the next lap if he can stay there. Stevens leads up through the pit lane.
And he will take the race lead there. The 013 of Phil Otto has just unlapped himself, I believe, there. And it looks like in behind is also another one of our sportsman class cars, which should be Nick McMillan. It is indeed, as there's Stevens coming off of the coming around the access road now to get back up to speed. He'll slot in behind Julian Mookie, Thomas Hins, and Gavin Barber here too as well. I believe, yep, there goes Barber, which is very close to seconds. And back to P12 for the number 3 machine, but there we go. Has the tyre advantage of a couple of laps there on Jason Martin, but critically, look how far down that puts him relative to Jason Martin. And we're only talking 4 laps of running longer.
It'll, if we go green, it'll equate to about 16 or 20 laps at the end of the final stint. Less fuel than he needs to get to the end. Oh, look at this mess in front of him, though. He's come out at an awkward point on the racetrack. Let's keep those lap numbers up on the ticket. We'll talk about that in a second. Is we wait to see if Stevens can pick his way through. Shane Bowen's gone to the lead of the race. And so the leader, he last pitted on lap 102. That was 15 laps ago. And it was 12 laps after Dean Mole. Harper in third, pitted at the same time as Bowen. So he's coming through, and he's a few seconds behind Bowen. Martin pitted another 9 laps later. That's 21 laps after Dean Mole. He's got the best tyres of the bunch. Robert Northway managed to go to 112. Everyone pretty much pitting after lap 100 now for the rest of the field. A couple outliers. Dan Stevens pitting on lap 115. And Chalker, 11th place, pitted on lap 90.
Same strategy as Dean Mole, going for the early stop. And yeah, we're in this fascinating point of the race where we're seeing those strategies play out quite differently here as drivers now on fresh tyres really starting to carve their way through here. Next couple of laps, Dan Stevens already up into 8th place from 12th. And it gets by Thomas Hins, and it'll be Julian Mookie who's next ahead here. And you can see just how quickly these 2 Pro Class guys are going to go. And in fact, look at that. Quite the send there with the roll out into 1 and 2. Mookie wants absolutely none of it. He's racing for the Sportsman Championship. And these Pro Class guys, he doesn't really need them in between him and Dave Trevethan. At this point, I don't... Well, actually, he would like them as a bit of insurance, but at the same time, if they're all clear, then he can focus on his race and not have to worry about pro class drivers trying to go charging on through here.
Fight within a fight. I almost called it Pro-Am then. But it's certainly not. For these drivers in the sportsman standings, yeah, it's not the outright, right? It's not the outright battle, but these guys, it means just as much to them, and it's no less of an achievement winning that sportsman championship. Oftentimes, that sportsman championship or Pro-Am fight is more exciting than the one for the overall battle. And I'll tell you what, in this race, Daniel, it's shaping up to be that way, because we've got our championship leader languishing a lap down, while the guy in second leads the class. In pro standings, it's looking pretty clear for Northway at the moment.
It is indeed. Currently sitting in 5th place, and Thomas Hens back in 8th is certainly not going to do anything. As based on the fact, I think actually yesterday is why the actual wording for Robert Northway was if Hins was to finish 5th or lower today, Northway would just need to have started the race. I think that's actually a reference to the fact that we only have a handful of drivers in both classes for this one, and also being told it's quite possibly also just simply based on a good old drop round calculations and such. They
based on math, Daniel. It's all down to math at the end of the day, and quite frankly, I don't like math. So I'm just going to trust what he says and see if it pans out for him. But I mean, the equation's pretty simple right now, isn't it? He will be the champion. He is currently the champion, unless Hins can magically find a massive improvement over the last part of this race. That was almost contact there between Dave Trevethan going by Joshua Thomas. Just pushed up the racetrack, and Thomas didn't want any part of that close battle. Someone's pitting. It's Robertson.
Yeah, unfortunately for Josh Robertson, his tyres have apparently cooked themselves once again. 37 laps for this current stint behind the wheel. So he will come back down for the... it's almost, I mean, the walk of shame sounds a bit cruel probably at this point, but... I'm
well,
just sort of getting those...
it's better than blowing a tyre out. The problem he's going to face, Daniel, is running out of tyre sets. You get 7, which seems like a lot, but it's not for a 260 lap race where you have to pit every 60 laps. It's even worse if you have to pit every 30 laps.
Yeah, he will probably burn up every single one of his available sets today. Right as we get to the end of the race, it basically leaves him no margin for coming to the pits in a caution phase or a late caution, where having fresh tyres would probably be helpful, to say the least, as he tries to get back on with it. Now, I'm seeing Dean Moll now starting to struggle as well. Yeah. One of our drivers to pit early there in that second stop. He's just been absolutely blitzed by Robert Northway for turns 1 and 2. And the laps are counting up. We're already onto the 36th lap of the run. So into that second half for Moll already. And, I think he is also now starting to feel it, as it were, with the lack of grip underneath him.
He only ran 40 laps in the first stint, so he could, in theory, only be about 4 or so laps away from pitting again. But he'll run into the same problem as Robertson of just having to pit too many times. But right now, it's working out well for him. He's still running in 5th, and he's got a few seconds to 7th, 8th on back, which is, I think, where he was running before he made that stop.
Yeah, that does sound about right. That is true. As, just hearing drivers cordially working their way around each other at this point. All fairly polite and calm out on the circuit. See here, Shane Bowen continuing to lead the race. Has pulled 3 seconds on Sam Harper on this one so far, but Jason Martin is coming, and coming very quickly up the inside of Harper. Will take P2 away there at the end of lap 128 in this one. And he now has just less than 3 seconds, I should say, to go and catch Shane Bowen. Despite only having 10 lap younger tyres, he's going at it real quick here.
He was 1.1 second. He was 1.1 seconds quicker than Bowen on the previous lap. Daniel Stevens only matched Jason Martin, so those fresher tyres not really working for him.
Yeah, there's not that much of a difference between Martin's tyre life and Stevens' current tyre life that I would suggest Stevens should be honestly much quicker, if any quicker, than Martin. It's going to be, I think, a lot down to the way the traffic falls and flows at this point, as new fastest lap of the race has gone to who else but Joshua Robertson. As I just heard a very interesting sound in the background. We won't talk about that one, I guess, because 33.257 for Robertson there. Unfortunately for him, 2 laps down there in 20th place. And almost backs it up with a 33.6. That puts him a fair bit quicker than everyone else currently circulating in the mid 34s, or if you're in the case of D Mole, you've already gone to a 35.6. So yeah, Mole is starting to really feel the burn, as it were. As we jump back on board with Sam Harper now in 4th place, out on track. Northway ahead, Glenn Burns behind.
I feel like that camera's moved.
That seems about appropriate, yes.
I feel like the camera was straight on. Now it's not. Am I going crazy?
I think you're onto something there. It may just be that I don't know, has Sam decided to put his house on the side of a hill or a banked oval? That would potentially explain things.
Forget motion rig, he's got a motion room. The whole room leans as he goes through the corners.
That might just do it. He's actually going to check something from the iRacing black boxes there, I would suggest. But focusing on here. That's
what I could never do with VR, is reach down, grab that keyboard and press the right button. I end up accidentally alt F4ing out of the session.
Well, that's 2 key presses. That is quite impressive, I would have to suggest.
Fat fingers, you know, it's a danger.
It certainly could be a risk. Oh, I'll give it to you there. Checking back in with Dan Stevens, you can see he's currently in P5 and actually has a couple seconds of clear, well, on the timing tower it's clear track, but I wonder if it actually is clear track or not at this point to Sam Harper ahead of him.
Safe to assume it's not. There's a lot of lap stars at the moment.
We do indeed. 16th on back, 1 or more laps down at this point in the race. It's it's Jonathan Bean, apologies, who holds the potential lucky dog should something go amiss, as things are getting a little interesting in sportsman class. Phil Otto, Nick McMillan and Dave Trevethan all currently riding here, as Gavin Barber just drops in behind Thomas Hinz on the timing tower. But this is the fight for 3rd in the sportsman class here as they work their own. And Dean Mole waves the white flag on that set of tyres. That was 45 laps, if I'm not mistaken, and into the lane he will come.
Shock horror. His first 3 stints are all 45 laps in length. And
into a number then.
Yeah, he is. I'm just thinking how that works with a pit stop. Generally, you don't run the same length stint after you've had a pit stop on a yellow, because you eat up a couple of laps under the caution, so you can go a little bit longer. But he's got that number and he's sticking to it. See how this one works out. He gained a bit of ground on that stint, didn't he? So theory goes he should gain a little bit more on this stint.
And it might just work, but he is sacrificing a good 10, 15, no, nearly 15 laps a stint when he does this, nearly 20 perhaps, in some of the more extreme circumstances. That's a lot of laps you have to make up for as the race goes on. James Catchpole, the next 2 will pit. out of 17th in the 021 machine. Yeah, I've noticed that too. I thought it looked a little funny, but there's confirmation. Apparently, that's not a Ford Mustang. It's a Mercedes C63.
See, no wonder I was getting confused earlier on.
Doesn't that technically violate the iRacing custom paint policy?
Oh, don't be a Debbie Downer, Daniel.
All right. Well, I'm not the one with the magic delete button. What am I going to do from here in the SimSpeed comms box?
There's always people listening.
Well, I'm sure
I don't think Steve Myers is watching this broadcast, but you know, you never know.
All right, fine.
I love the innovation.
I didn't say anything. I'll undo what I said by focusing on Dan Stevens just absolutely blazing past Sam Harper there for 4th on the road. Their round turns 1 and 2. And they just go on by the car. Who just came out of the pits there behind them now? I wish I can find out. It's click a button. Josh Thomas. As there goes Catchpole.
There was a bit of contact down the straight between Connor Brown and Dave Trevethan just after the start-finish line. It actually made Catchpole behind lift out of the throttle because he thought there was going to be a wreck. I thought there was going to be a wreck too. So look at the speed in which he gained through the corner. And then this was awkward. Whoop. Very close to being fenced was Connor Brown.
He was indeed. Alrighty then. Well, Trevethan did come down to the pits. Where is that? Trevethan came to the pits 11 laps later than Connor Brown. They're both on their 3rd set of tyres still. But another case of tyres really burning up. As a friendly reminder from producer Joe Kennedy, we have gone past the halfway mark in this race, which would have been back halfway around lap 133 of this one.
Late to the party. Late to the party, Jay, but thanks for joining us.
So the laps tick on by, and into the second half we go as lap 142 begins with Jason Martin putting Connor Brown another lap down. 3 laps shy of the leader now for the 51 Real Bad Racing machine. As there goes Dean Mole, looking to rapidly hunt down said race leader to get himself back on the...
Guess who's sideways? It's been 20 laps. It's Joshua Robertson.
Oh dear.
He had an almighty tank swapper going on through turn 4 that lap.
So unfortunately, the I wouldn't say it's the gift that keeps on giving, because it's just sort of, it's like clockwork. We hit 20 laps and Robertson's car is instantly turned into a lethal hand grenade masquerading as a NASCAR. And oh my word, yep, that's enough. That's enough. I don't need to see any more than that, I think. Apart from the fact that I know it's going to happen again and again and again now, unfortunately, for the 256. The world of woes for Robertson continues as his field continues to race green here through this middle part of the race.
Honestly, I mean, fair play. He hasn't spun out. I had this problem at Atlanta, and it took me about 5 laps before I gave up and said, fine, I'm spinning out. It's too much effort to keep this car straight. Not that I intentionally spun. That's not what I'm saying. But once it starts to drive like this, it's just an absolute monster. There's nothing you can do. I mean, you can... Whoa!
Yeesh!
How's that not a yellow?
Connor Brown.
Sleeping. Connor
All
Brown,
right,
wide awake.
I saw something completely separate, I think, as well. So Matt Chalker and Sam Harper have had a moment too. So Connor Brown wanted to pit and then doesn't take the access road, and that's why they've all checked it. That's why I saw Chalker and Brown checking up right. So that spooked that entire pack, because they're coming around and all of a sudden there's a car 45 degrees to the track, keeping just enough speed in it that Yeah, we stay green. The second miracle have come this race.
Not far
As-
in front of Jason Martin either, that incident.
Connor Brown says, all right, my time is up. I am out of here. As Julian Mookie's going to go down, and that was an aggressive drop off the banking, but at least it puts him down on the banking nice and early there.
That's how I do it.
Pull it up.
Good job, Mickey.
Oh, front splitters are for there to be abused, it would seem.
Generally, when you slow down on the racetrack, you've got to give a warning and say, I'm pitting this lap, and that means the guys behind you know you're probably going to be a little bit off the pace, and they'll take a different line through the corner, so they're not tracking your bumper as you slow down, and that allows you to get it wide up before you make the hard left.
Is one of those little interesting things about oval racing when it comes to the common courtesy of advising that one there. Because, of course, generally in racing, well, I do road racing. So, for me, I'm not usually indicating to the rest of the world that, oh, by the way, I'm coming into the pits. But I guess I'm coming into the pits, don't bin me, please. It's a bit of a different story.
If you're in a fight and you think you can undercut the leader and you're a little way behind him, you're not announcing it. There's no way. You don't want the leader to know you've pitted. But it depends on the situation.
It is true. Hence the conditional now, well, the conditional add I made there about you make note of it in particular when you don't want to get absolutely turfed by someone on your bumper coming into the corner. We might be expecting a slightly more normal pace, funnily enough, as it were, down the corner.
Field is strung out a bit now at the moment. Not a lot of side-by-side action going on out there as we see Sam Harper completes a 14.7 second stop in his Toyota. I took a wild punt. A wild guess at that one. I recognize the shape of the cars. That's not the problem. It's just I'm looking at them on too small of a screen.
Now the truth comes out.
I'm running split screen. Okay, I've got prod feed on one half of the screen, iRacing on the other half, and that means both of them are very small-ish.
Fair enough. I'm actually adding more stuff to my side screens as I go here to really complete the experience in terms of throw all the data at my own eyeballs.
Yeah.
But put them
We can't all have 12 monitor setups like Jay. It's only 8, he says. It's only 8. As Matt Chalker announces he's coming to pit lane. Chalker's in. From 12th position.
I mean, yeah, I'm all for the more the merrier monitor gang. With my middle of the road 4 monitor setup then. It does make for a fun time though, because I have to also then be conscious not to go having my head on such a swivel that I'm talking not into the microphone whilst I'm doing this. Well, I have to consciously remember to actually like pivot in my seat so the microphone is always somewhat in front of my mouth. It's a great little fun game of microphone technique that I'm having to remember these days.
So this battle we're watching now, we are on board with Nick McMillan. He is on the same strategy as that car he is shadowing, which is Pilotto. Oh, here come the fresher tyres. Ooh, that was close.
Thankfully, without too much drama, Julian Mookie in the 39 machine gets on by Shane Bowen. Will drop down the order as he will come to the pits once again, having last pitted on lap 101. Comes in at the end of lap 152 there to take his next set of tyres. We'll see if his middle of the road approach can bring him some benefit in due course. He's away once again. 4 tyres and fuel. This will see him back out onto the track a lap down in position number 13 in this race.
154. Martin pitted 110. So he is about 15 laps away from making his next pit stop. His lead is 7.4 seconds over Robert Northway, who pitted 1 lap later than him. Daniel Stevens has worked his way back to third, and he's 9.3 seconds off the race lead. 9.5. He was over 10 seconds away, so he has made a tiny inroad there.
That is true, yes.
His last lap was 2/10 slower than Jason Martin's, though, so that gap is starting to eke back out again. You know what would be good right about now? Caution.
Well, that would just be too dramatic.
It would. It would be true Major Series fashion. Daniel Stevens on the screen. A lot of oval experience for Daniel. I haven't seen him do so much lately, but he was a great thorn in my side for a little while in the oval scene. Showing his experience today, running in third, had that great second stint, hanging onto the tyres. But look at that wheel. And look at the car going by on the right-hand side of your screen. That's Sam Harper. G'day, Daniel. Watch that wheel as he goes through the corner. He's turning left. He's turning left. As he gets towards the exit, straightens out. But look at the fight that he's got on his hands. Didn't actually have to turn right that time, but through 1 and 2 he certainly was. Gripping that wheel. Trying to be as smooth as possible over the bumps. Not letting that wheel jump sideways. And as he cracks the throttle, there's a snap of oversteer that he has to correct.
Yeah, starting to really wear on down. I've just seen, yep, the Shane Bowen on his fresh tyres go past Julian Mookie on the timing tower. Likewise, D Molt on the charge forward too. Now that he's nearly 20 laps into his current run, just sort of showing how far off sequence compared to the leaders he now is. He's up to 8th in the last car, not on the lead lap, and he'll get that lead lap back in just a moment's time here because he's right in behind the leader of Jason Martin once some more. Another virtual racing school replay because there's been there's a small incident out on the circuit. Oh no, Joshua Robertson is coming on screen. Sam Harper closing down very rapidly there in his 52 Camry, and Harper wants high. Robertson, thankfully, just is nudged and puts it up in the fence momentarily.
It's a miscommunication there. Robertson's the car in front. He's entitled to pick whatever lane he wants. Harper, though, the speed he was closing in, had to make a guess before he got to the corner. Guessed wrong. Very hard to change your lane as you're entering the corner. You've got to commit one way or the other, and you're on for the ride until about halfway through, and you can make an adjustment if necessary.
Several of our sportsman drivers, Jake Fox, Nick McMillan, Dave Trevethan, all coming to the pit lane this time around. And so getting their next set of tyres on their cars as Robertson
This is a big stint for him.
Running the high line. It's been how many laps? Just
34.
Over been 34. That's true. Unfortunately for him, he's a long ways down. Yes. Actually, I see a little longer than that. He last came in for me on the end of 121, start of 122 there. He's currently on his 158th lap of this race.
I told you, math, it's not my strong suit.
Ah, well, we make do with what we can get, and we fill in the gaps otherwise from time to time. As how's this for a slight development here at the end of this third run, Ryan? Robert Northway's pace has dipped slightly. Daniel Stevens, roughly in tune or in sync with where Jason Martin is, and as a result has closed onto the rear of the 46 here in the dying laps. Now, if you're Stevens, do you look to get past here, get the clean air for a couple of laps and go, or stay where you are? Nope.
Yep. That's what's happening. Stevens to the inside, because they're not going to pit. Stevens isn't going to pit for another. I don't think he'll pit until lap 100 and 80 at the least. I'm expecting to see Martin into the pits around lap 170, 175 at the most. But I think Stevens has still got another 17 or 18 laps in it. So clean air will work nicely for him. Not that long. It'll be a 65 lap stint.
Okay, right. As right on cue, Joshua Robertson's going to make that another stint of not even 40 laps, unfortunately, for the 256. Back on the lane once again. And being told this is his 5th set of tyres he's going down, so he has only 3 sets remaining once this pit service is complete. So he's also used a fast repair, which the one fast repair that these drivers get here in the major series. So it is things unfortunately not looking too hot flash there for Robertson, as he had that little scrape with Sam Harper and the fence. That'll be worth potentially a bit of damage. In fact, he is taking damage repair at the stop. He's gone well past his standard expected pit timer. In fact, double expected pit stop length here for Robertson, unfortunately. On board here now with Phil Otto, currently running 10th outright, leader of the sportsman drivers in this phase of the race. Hasn't come to the pit since lap 111, so we're 55 laps into, 54 laps into the stint for him currently, because he is the first car a lap down as well on the race leader, which would be a pretty powerful tool for him should something go sideways elsewhere and the lucky dog be granted. But no, he will dive to the lane just as I talk up that possibility. That is his stint done, as Robertson's still in the lane as well for good measure. It's going to be a very long pit stop.
Lap 167 of 267. We will get ourselves into the final portion of this race. 100 to go when they cross the line. Big swig of water there for Phil Otto, as he rehydrates himself and the race car down in the pit box. Car dropped off the jacks and he's away.
Actually reminds me now's a good time to also personally take a drink, and so I shall back here in the comms box.
Copy that.
Off the jacks goes Otto there, and rolling once more, and that's one of the middle finger cars. Gavin Barber, the 25, also taking the pit service here for him at the end of a lap 167.
The pit road speed is 80 kilometers an hour, but Gavin Barber heading down pit road doing 81. Well, Jason Martin doing a steady 81.
He can ever so slightly get away with a little more speed as a...
Yep, that's the experience. You head down pit road and you can do 81, dip into 82, and get away with it all the way down pit road. In fact, you can even enter doing 10 or 15 more if you get it slowed down quickly enough.
Yes, and as yeah, Martin and Thomas Hinz is joining him in the pit lane as well here, so that's another...
Martin pitted on lap 169, so that's a lap short of what we were expecting, but we're in the ballpark there. He could have stretched to 175, but he looks committed to the 60-lap stint. Now, I said Daniel Stevens could go to lap 180. And it seems like a lot. 6 more, says Jay. It seems like a long way, but what, he pitted on lap 115, so he did a 65-lap stint the first time. But he did do a couple laps under caution, so 63, 64. He'll get close to that number. Yeah. It seems like, and it ends up going 10 laps longer than Jason Martin, and that's the benefit of pitting late on a multi-stop race. That gap becomes bigger and bigger, and Stevens, the deficit of the gain he gets after he pits becomes bigger and bigger because his tyres are so much fresher each time.
Yeah, I would say at most another 7 laps for Dan Stevens here.
We've echoed the sentiments of our producer. Safe bet.
Yeah, look, what can I say? I'll take an easy bet every day of the week where I can, and see where things end up. Of course, right now is hemorrhaging a fair bit of lap time to everyone behind, who is desperately chasing him down with their fresh tyres. Although in saying that, you've got guys like D Mole who are approaching 40 laps already on the 4th set of tyres.
So he'll be in 5 laps time.
The majority of people are going to be going on to well, just starting on their 4th set of tyres, and indeed, Dan Stevens is yet to start on his 4th set of tyres, so he'll put another one in the books here. Happy to lap here in the mid 35-second marker, and keep putting the pressure on from the front when it comes to those lap time, or the lap stint lengths, I should say. Yes, as he works his way through turns 3 and 4. Eyes on Jason Martin back in P5 is just going through to turns 1 and 2 as the leader approaches the start-finish line right now.
If we were to get a yellow right about now, it would be a very interesting moment to have on. The Stevens would be in the box seat. Getting a virtual racing score replay here of Sam Harper, a big moment for him. As he came out of turn 2, watch the wheel here. Going to have to go to work to keep this car pointed straight. I think the replay doesn't do justice to that one. Hearing from Jay that over on the Zoom feeds, it was pretty dramatic, the input he made to his real life wheel.
Yeah, no surprises there.
Maybe that's what's causing the camera to fall. As he rips that wheel, it's shaking the rig, and the camera is just slowly losing touch with reality.
That's one way to put it, as we bring up said Zoom feed of Sam Harper there in the number 52 machine. See here what it looks like through turns 3 and 4. This time he's got, I believe that's Josh Thomas it is, the 386 on his outside there. So has to narrow up the exit a little more, we think. We're going to stay here on board with Harper and see what it looks like into turn 2 this time by, as he works his way down low through turn 1. Going to keep it low here. Start easing it straight. And a little wobble there. So having to look after it himself and the car, and give a moment there on the straight there, it seems. Take your hand off the wheel and try and straighten out the hand and the wrist, it seems.
Makes an adjustment. So 177, that's a lap Daniel Stevens is going to pit, so a little bit longer than Jay anticipated, a little bit less than I anticipated. I think you got it about right, Daniel. Nice, smooth transition on to the banking. Last pit stop was on lap 115, so he's managed to go 62. Well, it's 63 laps, because he's effectively done that 177th lap. But Shane Bowen is going to be able to keep going here. And is that because he pitted a long time ago, but not so long ago that he's running out? Yes, he pitted on lap 153. So he's closing it on 30 laps deep into this stint. Completely off strategy to what our effective race leaders are doing.
That he is not as extreme as, say, Sam Harper or Julian Nuki. Where is Dean? Hey, guess who came to the pits whilst we were talking about the race leader? Dean Mole came in before Dan Stevens even took his 3rd stop.
Yeah,
So
and this is why that ultra short strategy just doesn't work, Dan. He's done an extra stop. You don't gain that back.
You don't know. He's got... Well, Stevens actually going ultra long at this phase of the race.
Whoa.
Oh, my word. Stevens I think that's Dave Trevethan there on the high side. Yes, it is in the 521. Almost coming to blows off of turn 2. A little bit of a hit check there, unexpected as we go to the virtual racing school replay. So we've got Trevethan in the middle of the road. That's Phil Otto in the middle. Oh, and Stevens coming out of the pits. Otto pulls out, and Stevens, unfortunately, a uncharacteristic error, I should say, of Stevens just wanders up into the side of Trevethan, who's not quite at the wall, but most certainly tracking straight down there towards turn 3.
Yeah, I don't think he knew he was there. I think he got distracted by that car pulling in directly to his mirror and didn't realise there was another car to his outside.
Well, they all carry on at least, so no major harm seems to have befallen them all at this point. I'm just trying to see, where is Dan Stevens? He's currently
A long way back.
Yeah, he's got the top 3 that he needs to pass by before he can get back on the lead lap of the race. He is the first car a lap down, should things go sideways at this point.
Something has unfolded somewhere, somehow, because Stevens is effectively 30 plus seconds behind. Yeah, there you go. A 26-second stop for Daniel Stevens. I was confused for a moment there because he's more than 30 seconds behind Jason Martin, and at most it should have been 15, 20 at maximum. But yeah, an extra 10 seconds in the pits, just in the box itself, will certainly hurt that.
Hurt that, sure will. I actually completely missed that in all of the stuff we were watching out there on circuits. So indeed, I'm actually going to have a quick look back and see if there's any indication of what could have caused that there.
I'm going to take a long punt that he slipped through his box.
Well, I'll go and try and find that out here then. As that's practice times.
He's just passed Jason Martin on the racetrack, but he's a lap down. That's what he's lost. He was at one point, before that end of that second stint, just 2 seconds behind Martin. Now, he's a lap behind him.
Strangely enough, A-OK with the pit entry into the box. So, very unusual there, because everything looks normal. Takes 4 tyres and then just holds for 10 seconds. And while that's all been happening, Jason Martin has retaken the race lead from Shane Bowen. So Stevens back on the lead lap, but only just. And
either a lapse in concentration, or he had to make an adjustment, or he had to take his focus away from the sim for a moment in the real world. Because, yeah, he did not get a speeding penalty, that's for sure. And he didn't slide through his box. It's costly, whatever it was. He'll be praying for a caution now.
Yeah, he sure will. And he'll need it to have any chance of getting back in with the fight. Does have Nick Miller now behind him, who will, mind you, in saying that, will not be much of an obstacle for a up-to-speed and pretty cruisy Jason Martin, who's not even 20 laps into his set of tyres here, so should certainly still be feeling a good bit of turn of speed at this point. Stevens, on the other hand, is lapping just a little bit quicker than Martin at this point in the race. He's going to need every tenth that he can get in this phase to try and claw back some of that ground now. Before things go awry, we're coming down towards the final 80 laps. And, well, you're approaching the point where you could realistically try and gamble on an undercut, potentially, Ryan, but at the same time, you'll still be sitting in the pit lane for the tyres to take their effect rather than the refuel, which won't really help unless there was to be a caution shortly after you unlapped yourself.
Correct. Still got every car running in this race. 21 started, 21 remain. But in 21st, the man that entered today as the leader in the sportsman standings. Joshua Robertson, he is 12 laps down. There's no way back from him from here. Julian Mookie, who came in second in the points, is running second in class. Robertson got caught up a bit there. As into pit lane comes Shane Bowen. So they go 3 wide on the racetrack, down into turn number 1. Robertson up high. Harper in the middle. And a very quick Robert Northway down low.
Pro and sportsman are mixing here indeed as well. It's
not to assume, Dan, that Mookie will take the lead of the championship if it finishes like this.
I believe it should. Yes. I'll have a quick look at the standings. So coming into the race, if I can find the correct one that I need to look at here. The gap between Robertson and Mookie, 25 points. And back to Trevethan, it was another 41. So by this fact, Robertson's in the fence on the exit of turn 2. That forced a couple of cars to scatter low, but no one gets involved, I don't think. But unfortunately for Robertson, if it couldn't get worse, it might just have done. In fact, he will immediately proceed back to the pit lane. I suspect his race might be done. So there's the standings overlaid on screen with us now here before today started. So the slightly frustrating thing is that the drop rounds aren't finalized before this finale race. So the implication, from my understanding, is this could be a drop round for drivers as well. And for example, if that was the case for Robertson, if this becomes a drop round for him, that shouldn't save his championship hopes, but maybe it could keep him in second place. I honestly couldn't tell you. I wish I could.
So, yeah, we're not going to know until it's all run and done, basically. I think Robertson's had enough. Yeah, he just got loose off of turn 2, had a big snap, overcorrected it, which it's really easy to do, and turned himself into the fence. Lucky not to spin and bring out a caution, or unlucky, depending on who you're rooting for.
This is interesting. Julian Mookie, last pitted at the end of lap 145, comes to the lane at the end of lap 191 here and missed his pit box ever so slightly. So that's quite, if he could, yeah, I was wondering, couldn't quite stretch the fuel there perhaps, or the tyres, because definitely too far to make it if it stays green. So we'll have to come for a splash and a quick tyre change later on. But going off those numbers, I think there was maybe the option, could have squeezed another 10 laps out of the fuel tank and then maybe made it slightly more possible, as James Catchpole has followed Mookie into the pits as well and will come out in 18th place.
Well, we just heard Jake Fox come over the radio say it's looking good for you, Julian. So that'll be in reference to the fact that Robertson just left the server.
Yes, well, we'll see how that things change. But hopefully we get confirmation here in the comms box shortly after the checkered flag flies as to the way the situation plays out. Just looking here at Shane Bowen on his fresher set of tyres. Going to go by Stuart Elder there. The leader, Jason Martin, is just up the road through turns 1 and 2, passing Jake Fox to put the 0.8 now a lap down. So Bowen here looking to try and get himself back on the lead lap again with fresh rubber as Martin pushes this stint out a fair ways. And actually, realistically, he's not even hit 30 laps on this tank of fuel. So you go 30 laps from here, we 40 odd to go on the final stint for Jason Martin. He is well and truly where he would like to be, strategy-wise, I would have thought at this point. And yeah, 10.5 seconds clear to Robert Northway, continuing to check out from Robert Northway, who I guess really at this point is just checking the boxes off lap by lap, do what only need be done.
.71 to go. We could see people dive in early for a short stint here, and as soon as they reach that lap where they feel they can make it to the end, we could also see everyone just stick to their guns, keep doing what they've been doing all race. Dean Moll and Matt Chalker have a synchronized moment out of turn 2, and then Chalker disappears from the earth for a moment. Connectivity problems for him up high in the 76. There's the 19 on the screen. That is Dwayne Burns. He's got Sam Harper coming up behind him, but not for position. Harper is a whole lap ahead. Yeah, right. So that is 3rd and 4th. I don't know why I had... No, okay, so Burns has just gone by Harper for 3rd position in this race. 17 seconds off the back of Jason Martin, who leads by 16 seconds from Robert Northway in 2nd.
Back in Shane Bowen, who's continuing to charge on by these drivers on their older tyres, and get the zoom feed up of Bowen to here. Looking fairly steady, but a couple of little small movements of the wheel. As at the same time, I've just seen Dan Stevens has gone past Thomas Hinz on the timing tower, puts the number 3 machine back to P5, and 25 seconds off of Jason Martin. And, well, yeah, matching Martin once again for lap times, despite having tyres 9 laps younger. Does say a lot as we can stay on board here with the 7, working his way through turns 1 and 2. Keeps it down nice and low, wheel work. Not a whole lot of that going on there, so car still very much in good hands and under control there for the number 7 machine.
That is I was about... hang on. As I opened my mouth then, I saw the VR headset. I was going to say that is a small screen to be racing on. But the VR on, of course.
So virtual reality is a great way to race if you, A, don't mind the inconvenience that is a whole lot of sweat, and B, you take the time to optimize your settings to the nth degree, because frame rate drops are quite a pain and potentially nauseating when they happen. Makes it quite fun when you have to really turn down the number of cars visible on screen to avoid them happening when you're at the grid, when it's particularly apparent.
You only need to see 2 other cars, the guy in front, the guy behind, so turn it down to 2 and you'll be fine.
And I guess it's the basic requirement, I guess, but heaven forbid 3 wide.
Yeah, 1 inside, 1 outside. You're all good.
Right, fine. Okay, that wasn't enough of a description. Okay, 4 wide then.
Yeah, look, you're in trouble at that point. Daytona's going to be a problem as well. So is Talladega.
As Shane Bowen unlaps himself from Jason Martin. We're
And
approaching.
into the pits comes Nick
Indeed.
McMillan. Were you about to say we're approaching the pit window?
Yeah, we should be coming up to the final pit stop window. I think it's right on the limit here. Obviously, leaders have got 64 laps to go. These guys coming in now, just gone 2 laps down on Jason Martin. So they'll get a lap back in due course with a pit stop for Martin. But, so 63 laps for them on this tank of fuel. That might just work. It's going to be right at the upper limit, I would have thought, for a green flag run.
Stevens made it work. I also do not think we'll get to the end green. from what I recall, I'm not sure if it's changed this year. It was typical of majors to start off action-packed, build through the middle, and then always exploded at the end. Still the same, says producer Jay.
Well, waiting for the firecrackers to come out then. It's just, it has been fairly calm. In fact, we had the one caution, which saw everyone into the pits on that 48 pretty much. Since then, it's been all about how well you can manage a car in green flag conditions as we jump on board with Pro Class Championship contender Thomas Hinz. Unfortunately, 14 seconds odd behind Robert Northway still. He just has not been able to extract the pace. Had to also, clearly was showing a bit of a qualifying deficit as it's Dave Trevetheny passes by, who's found the fence on the outside there. Unfortunately for the 5-2-1, but that shouldn't do too much damage at this point. But
who's struggling? Sorry, Connor Brown, 37.4 last lap.
So unfortunately, one of the other real bad racing cars. I don't know. Brown is one of the real bad racing cars here today. Teammates and James Catchwell, both drivers there, unfortunately struggling a bit. Although Brown a lap and a half down from teammate Catchpole.
37.7 that lap. Oof. I tell you what, just noticed there on Hensies, there's a couple of people that need to clean their rooms. That's the one thing about a Zoom call. You can't hide. You've got a messy room. We're going to find out. Thomas Henz, you're on the list, buddy.
Well, that or he's brave for putting the camera up without with no concerns about the state of the room behind him, as Sam Harper brings the 52 machine to the lane. And we'll check that off here. Up on the jacks the car goes. And Matt Chalker will follow in as well in the 76 machine. That's Stuart Elder there in the background too, and Connor Brown also down to the lanes. This should all be the final stops of the race if we keep this up here. Indeed, that being if it stays green, of course. Should a caution come out, well, that will of course change the situation entirely. As I see Sam Harper's coming out of the pits just ahead of Jason Martins, who actually almost goes 2 laps down in the process of pitting from where he was. But we'll now check on out as Martin continues to circulate around here.
Yeah, he'll go as long as he can. He doesn't want to get trapped by a yellow right after he pits, putting him a lap down. He's in a position where he's not under threat from anyone doing on the undercut. He's built himself a huge safety net to play with. And really, he's not really had a challenger this race. I mean, looking at the field, there's not an oval specialist in there, apart from Jason Martin. There's quite a few people that are handy on an oval, but ovals are easy to drive well, but very hard to drive at the limit. Virtual Racing Score replay, I think, might prove that point. Thomas Hinz. Yep. Bit sideways, coming out of turn 4. He's used his spare car as well, by the way. Remember, you get one spare car in the Major Series. Oh, sorry, JN Thomas has used his spare car. More clarity needed from producer Jay, who just said Thomas has used his spare car. I'm throwing all the blame firmly off my shoulders for that one.
Well, whilst there's a bit of chatter going on in the background, I've just watched there Shane Bowen, fresh tyres and all, carve his way past Thomas Hinz. And the 76er Matt Chalker also getting on by with fresh tyres too, aboard that car. And Phil Otto, your sportsman class leader, has come to the pit lane. You can see he's under zero pressure whatsoever, as he's currently apparently a lap ahead of the others in class. So he will come in for the final time. We'll do a 53 lap stint to the end there.
Where's Dean Mole running? When did he last pit? Because he's been doing... Oh, wow, I'll tell you what. He's been doing 45 lap runs all the way through this race. He pitted 36 laps ago, and there's 9 laps until lap 45 to go. So he's worked that pretty well. Unfortunately, he's had to do an extra stop, and he's a lap down.
Yep, that seems to have, well, played out the way it would. Sure, the tyres are faster, but it's going to be hard to make up the deficit of an entire pit stop as we go back to riding with Thomas Hinds here in the number 53 machine. Definitely having to put a bit of wheel work in on corner exit now as his tyres fade away. Car looks like it's wanting to just twitch there on the exit of turn 4, but keeps it all together nicely as Dave Trevethan will respond to Phil Otto's final stop with his own final stop just there. Jonathan Bean taking it nice and gently around the access road to bring in as well. And I guess fair enough when you're back in P16 at this point in the race. You're not really racing for much right now. Better off making certain you get it pulled up and all that, rather than playing too many games. There's a Stuart Elder will get a lap back on Jason Martin for the time being, thanks to his fresh tyres. Moss Martin continues to keep on lapping, now approaching 50 laps on his current set.
Still 20 cars circulating out there. Only a Sportsman Championship leader out of this race. And that is 20 drivers that could bring out a caution and set up a grandstand finish to this championship. Thomas Hinds desperately needs something to happen. He's running 6th. Robert Northway 2nd. Hinsey's got no hope at this point. He needs to stay on the lead lap as well. He is very close to falling behind Jason Martin.
He is, and you really can't afford to be the first one to pit.
He will be, though.
He will. Well, this is another danger point, of course. I mean, there's a possibility maybe once he gets back out, a couple of laps, then Martin needs to pit to get that lap back. Then the caution flies. And all that jazz, but Hinds will drop in behind Gavin Barber, Dean Mole. Sam Harper surely 2 here will get him. Yep, most well and truly, because Hinds has only just come down off the right side jacks. And this will see Hinds all the way to the back of the group, 1 lap off the lead here, I think. I wish I could tell you, Director Joe Kennedy just asking if we may have witnessed an aborted pit entry from Dan Stevens on this one. Told he lost a lot of time here. Let's see, last lap around 35.4. As Robert Northway is going to be the next to pull in. Shane Bowen has come in as well. So Stevens will carry on.
He just got loose coming off the corner. Had to catch it. Here comes our race leader, Jason Martin. That was a committed pit entry. Crossed the pit entry line. At the perfect mark already too, though, so he nailed it.
That he did, so the order will shuffle once again. See here now, does Stevens come in soon? We know he has the range to keep on going. Question is, how long do you push it here? Knowing that now with everyone on fresh tyres, you will drop further on back. Dean Mole also owes us a stop, and in fact, the time is now for Mole. Slip and slide a little bit off the banking at transition onto the apron there, but all neat and tidy enough as Martin back out off the apron with a nice, clean and rather tidy 14.5-second stop there for his final scheduled transit down the lane.
Is he still second?
He is indeed second place on the road.
It is all going right for him today. Daniel Stevens leading right now. He'll be hoping he can go a couple more laps and then a caution will come out before he pits. And he's right back in the game.
Well, that would require quite the change from the status quo, as it were, because everyone's been so calm and orderly at this point that, well, we're going to just need that big change to mix things up. And there's fresh tyres for you, comparing leader's last lap versus Jason Martin's last lap. And, well, at that rate, he'll be passed in less than 2 laps.
.3 the gap. Less than 4 seconds the gap. It's come down by 2 seconds again on this lap. No real debate over that one. Sam Harper running in third. He's done well to claw himself back into a position he can fight from. He's right on the edge of the fuel number in terms of making it, but he'd faded a bit after qualifying fourth. He was running in the back half of the top 10, struggling a bit on his long runs, but good strategy call gets him back in the mix. 44 still to run.
Does indeed. We missed it, but lap 222 it would have been. New fastest lap of the race. Going to championship leader Robert Northway with a 33.1. Was almost matched by Thomas Hinz with a 33.2 as a personal best. So those guys there really trying to flex their muscle on fresh tyres as Dan Stevens waves his white flag and brings the number 3 middle finger racing machine into the lane. And just in the back of my ear there, odds on from producer Jack Kenny that he will go a lap down on Jason Martin, thanks to trying to stretch this stint. And that is a almost certainly accurate guess because he's only just hit the pit box. He's going to be there at least another 10 seconds, let alone the roll out of the lane. Indeed, there goes your lap down. Stevens, from the lead of the race, will slot into position number 10 outright, maybe 11 outright here, which will be behind Nick McMillan. We'll put him only behind Jason Martin at this point, who is 16 seconds clear of the lead, and has just done his personal best.
Cut that very final pit exit. You can't blend up to the racetrack until after the blue line. I reckon Stevens went about as early as you possibly can. Replay from Virtual Racing School of that pit exit. Check those right sides out as he blends up onto the racetrack.
You're not wrong,
Well,
okay.
There you go. He's either adjusted that perfectly or he's going to feel very unlucky. I reckon he's got it perfect.
So far, so perfect. As Julian Mookie, having owed us another stop, makes that now with 39 laps for the leaders to go. And it will be 38 once he comes out of the lane. Will be 2 laps down. Let's see here. Dave Trevethan is not too far behind the leader, so Mookie will fall in behind Trevethan here. That's obviously the Sportsman Championship fight there. That will still need to be decided. And at this rate, Trevethan could get that there because he's a long way. Mookie's coming out a long way behind Trevethan as Dan Stevens puts the fastest lap of the race on the board, a 33.0 for the number 3 machine in his quest to try and get back towards the lead lap. He will be in position currently for the lucky dog should something go amiss.
It's 38 to go. He can push pretty hard from here. Not flat out, as we've still seen plenty of drivers struggling with 20 lap stints, but 38 is a lot shorter than what he's been doing all night, which has been over 60 laps, so enjoy a more of an aggressive run to the flag here.
Northway up the inside of Sam Harper, takes back position number 2. Harper with 12 laps older tyres has got just about nothing for the ever-charging number 46. Although I say he's got nothing. Comparatively then to Jason Martin again, it's sort of been a case of, well, no one can touch that man tonight. Thomas Hinz is back in P5. He is currently 8.5 seconds down the road from Northway. As you see those gaps there on screen. Tucked up behind Dwayne Burns. Doesn't come down the front straight away. Not close enough to make a move, but he will look to that mid-track. Can he possibly slingshot? He'll actually cut back down to try and get the slingshot. Little wobble there, though, on the exit of 2. Just stalls the run a fraction, but he's going to show nose into 3. Not able to make it work, though, Ryan. He'll have to try again in another, or take another opportunity coming up.
Yep. No one's going to really be rolling over at this point in the race. You're in a straight fight now to the end. As we watch out of turn number 2. Thomas Hinz holding on to a 5th spot in this race ahead of Shane Bowen. And then a laps car, Matt Chalker off the back of this one. Dwayne Burns hoping that they continue to fight behind him and he can stretch a bit of a gap out in front. 27 seconds away from your race leader. Shane Bowen in 6 is 28 seconds away. Martin's doing 33-second lap time, so about 5 seconds away from catching the battle for 5th is Jason Martin. Good chance that he might lap everyone up to 4th in this race if we go green.
Yeah, I'd say that's a fairly decent set of odds. Bit of shuffling on this lap. Dan Stevens, Gavin Barber have both made their way by Jake Fox, the current sportsman class leader. Fox, last pitted on lap 202. So we'll be absolutely having to eke out that car to the end of this one. We'll do a 64-lap stint here to make it home, which certainly could be trying as 4, 5, 6 of Burns, Hinz and Bowen negotiate some traffic there in the form of, I believe that might have been James Catchpole, but it could be Connor Brown. I can't quite tell because the timing hasn't, I can't see on my track map which car it is. It would have been Connor Brown. The magic answer reveals itself with a 19 revealing itself on the map there. Dan Stevens is pushing 0.6 faster than Jason Martin last lap around Ryan, so he should get back to the lead lap at this rate. Just well, actually give it what, another 10 odd laps. What's his gap? About, actually, yeah, I'd say it's about 4 seconds at the moment on the road before he gets his lap back. So 10 laps or so he should get there. Not even.
Wondering if he can get back to the battle for 5th. I mean, Martin's running that battle down and Stevens is running Martin down. Might be a salvageable result for Dan Stevens.
I think it might just be, yeah.
Thomas Hinz is starting to eke back towards Dwayne Burns now. They're running very similar lap times, but he seems to have seen off the bulk of the pressure from Shane Bowen.
Sportsman class leader, Jake Fox. Back onto the pit lane. He's followed in by Nick McMillan. Looks like those two drivers, having come in end of lap 202, start of 203, I think just not quite having the mileage. Dean Mole's going to join them in the pit lane, as well as is Connor Brown and Matt Chalker, apparently, all coming to the lane. Unless that was Dean Mole hitting the button wrong, because Dean Mole has only done...
Dean Mole put on lap 221. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine, yeah. So that's... okay, it's a mishit on the button there. But several of our sportsman drivers all taking a chance to do one final pit stop here. We shall reshuffle the order a little bit in sportsman. Let's Phil Otto back in class lead with Dave Trevethan and Julian Mookie continuing as they have been for the most part this race.
Been a very clean race. Just the one caution over the first 240 odd laps. It's a good effort. Touch wood, stays green. No commentator's curse in effect.
We burned it all up last night, so congratulations. You missed our coverage of Logitech GV at Scott Supports last night. I apparently we had it all out in full effect. I did say last night, though, I was getting rid of it all so that we didn't curse anyone here today, given the championship's on the line. So clearly, I said some combination of right words. I'm being told I've apparently ruined it, and maybe I have, because now I'm getting all up in my britches here.
The moment you talk about it, you've ruined it.
Okay, well, fine. I'll shut up then.
Save the curses for Fiat Scops tomorrow night, which you can catch here on SimSpeed TV.
That we can.
I don't know what time it is, but you can catch it tomorrow.
6 o'clock, Australian Eastern Daylight Time.
5 o'clock normal time.
Yeah,
Let's not get into that debate.
It's an interesting way to put it.
Well, it does say Eastern Standard Time. It's standard. So, no, take that how you will. Battle for fourth is still pretty lively. Less than a second covering those three drivers, but Hins just can't get close enough to do anything. Neither can Shane Bowen. But right now,
they're also catching Sam Harper quite nicely here too.
Yeah, Harper in third. Here's the last lap. Was a 34.9, Burns a 34.4, and you can see Harper running further up the racetrack. Can't get that car turned. 34.4 again for Burns, 34.9 again for Harper. Big delta, that big gap between their pace. This should be pretty easy for Dwayne Burns. Whoa, not if Harper gets that loose coming out of the corner. Burns to the inside. Throw it down. The shortest route through the corner. Harper with those older tyres, I'm going to presume. Can't fight that one. 10 laps. It's enough.
And unfortunately, has used up their benefits early on in the stint. Burns through. Thomas Hins through. Shane Bowen coming up next. Actually, no, Nick McMillan. Actually, on the inside of Thomas Hins has injected himself into the conversation there for a second while all of this was happening. And he's on very fresh tyres. So he would like to get on his merry way here too, which is just causing a small moment of hiccups there. What it has done is let Dwayne Burns decide that, cool, I'll take a free second and change on Thomas Hins. And Sam Harper's not quite done trying to fight for that spot. Actually will lunge it up the inside there through the middle of turns 1 and 2. The drive off of 2, though, from Hins will be just enough to clear out down the back stretch here again. Oh, my word. Never mind. Sam Harper wants at it. He doesn't care about the championship. He nearly puts it into the left rear of Hins's machine there at 3. So he's not done. He wants every last place he can get, even if he's going to be really scrapping hard to try and make it possible. Shane Bowen up the inside. through turns 1 and 2, but Harper around the high side. We'll get the speed down the back straight away. Overlap will not be cleared though, so they'll go side by side to the 3 and 4 here once again. See if Harper's got just enough up there to be able to stick with Bowen, but I'm not entirely sure that's going to be the case here.
Jason Martin in the distance. Ready to lap some more people. Dan Stevens catching as well. So as we said, all three of them, well, that group, and then Martin, and then Stevens, closing in on each other.
It might just end up being the top 2 in this race that stay on the lead lap if this
Northway
pace
should be fine.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, Northway absolutely
right.
clear.
You're
Hence
right.
my point.
Thank you. I was just reaffirming your point without realizing.
Excellent. And now there's this chatter back and forth about whether or not to have a safety car at this point in the race. Between Sam Harper, Robert Northway, Dan Stevens, they're all, I think, weighing up the pros and cons, as it were, of sorts here in this phase. Because we're coming to 17 laps to go. On board with Sam Harper. Jason Martin will just about to put Harper in P6. A lap down with being green that long in this race. Indeed, up the inside at 1 and 2. Harper's got absolutely nothing for your race leader. And Sam Harper changes his mind from wanting a yellow to not wanting a yellow.
He'd be fine if one came out now. He'd get the lucky dog.
He's got a very limited window in which he wants a yellow too, because Dan Stevens has been following Jason Martin around and closing with a vengeance.
Yeah, and this will be a pass for position. P6.
There's also the limited window 2 ahead in terms of how long it takes Jason Martin to catch and overtake Shane Bowen and, well, next Shane Bowen. That'll do it. And or Thomas Ince after that as well. So there's all of that little thoughts and games that need to come into effect as we focus back in on that fight for 4th. Hinz leading Bowen. Both drivers middle of the road through turns 3 and 4 at this point in the race. They have 16 laps to go, but it's not far off being 15 laps to go here. As Jason Martin ever closer in the rearview mirrors.
Bowen and Hinz. They get side by side. It'll make it very difficult for Martin here. But he's got 22 seconds in hand in which he can just make sure he gets through comfortably.
On board with 53 of Thomas Hinz. Bowen more narrow on the entry to turns 1 and 2. Both cars tracking on up to the wall by exit there onto the back stretch. Again through 3 and 4. Bowen committing to a more narrow entry, more like an early apex of sorts through 3, and then slide it up for turn 4 as Martin gets another half car length closer here or there. Hinz, in the meantime, has got the traffic of Phil Otto to his outside now through 1 and 2 here. You see that 013 pop into view there. And actually almost balked the run of Shane Bowen, who then tries to keep his foot in it as Jason Martin follows on by. Martin not going to play too many games. Dan Stevens through on Sam Harper, sorry. He now puts himself in that spot for Lucky Dog, which is immediately taken away by Shane Bowen, going down a lap on Jason Martin there, down the front stretch.
If the caution comes out now, Stevens will be cursing. It's in the Lucky Dog spot for 30 laps. It's always the way it goes, though.
Well, he's got 2 seconds. If he could find that, he might be back in with half a shout.
Important for Hinz to lose as little time as possible, letting Martin get by it. Because Bowen's right there to pounce. He's going to lose a little bit of time as Martin goes by because you can't run your optimal line.
Around the turn, look how much lower Martin can be in terms of grip and confidence through 1 and 2 and still come out the other side with more corner speed. Bit of side draft to help down the backstretch and a rollout from Hins. Your top 3 of the only cars left on the lead lap of this race, and Dwayne Burns is 3.5 seconds up the road. I would wager in that case that should mean Jason Martin has a reasonable chance of running him down from here.
And they go. Sportsman, meanwhile, being led by Phil Otto, who said 250 laps ago was going to be pretty strong today. Jake Fox about half a turn behind him, running 7/10 of a lap quicker than him. That might not be over just yet, that battle for the Sportsman lead in this race.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
stop checking the cricket scores. There you go.
Yeah, we'll see here if this changes at all. But Phil Otto actually does have 26 lap older tyres than Jake Fox. That could change things here, but with just 8 laps to go, you know, it's going to need some pretty serious hurry up from the 0-8 machine to make that work. But I guess currently closing in at 0.8 a second per lap. That's well and truly within potential and pace differential to make that work. So Phil Otto be hoping, I think, at this point that maybe the tyres suddenly dip on Fox's car there and slow down that charge forwards as another lap is crossed off with 7 now to go here.
Everyone up to 9th. Everyone up to 10th. 2 laps down or more. Only the top 3 on the lead lap. I reckon Burns might just hang on to that lead lap with only a few laps to go. No reason for Martin to push his way by it.
Difference in pace is only about 0.2 per lap. And it's about halfway there, I think, or abouts. But yes, don't quite see that happening at this point in the race now. As Dan Stevens is sizing up Shane Bowen for 5th, and he looks a whole lot racier there through turns 1 and 2. Just a question of can he make sure the exit off of turn 2 or turn 4 is golden and have that proper crack into the turns.
Three tenths quicker last lap for Dan Stevens than Shane Bowen. How badly do these two want a top 5 in this race? Bowen wanted it badly, but he overdrove the corner trying to block, and that just makes it so easy for Daniel Stevens to drive on by.
Now we've got James Catchpole going to insert himself into the equation. Catchpole down towards the back of the field on very fresh tyres. Yes, came to the pits 12 laps ago for himself. So he'll blaze on by Stevens, who leaves that inside nice and open while all that's happening is just 4 laps to go for your race leader up ahead. Dan Stevens, 2.2 seconds. If a miracle happens, could do it. And the gap continuing to close for your Sportsman race lead. It was over 4 seconds. It's now down to 1.8. Jake Fox, though, interestingly there, Matt Chalker not exactly racing with him in that moment. In fact, Chalker's going to put it up in the fence. Thankfully, just brushes off the fence there and doesn't do anything more drastic than that. But that stalls the run for a moment, I would suggest. 3 laps to go here now.
Yep.
So this is going to go all the way to the end.
Their last laps are both pretty much identical for Fox and Otto. That one really hurt Fox. Don't think he'll get there now.
Well, the lead is entering turns 3 and 4. Phil Otto is entering turn 3 at that 1.5 odd second mark. He's actually coming down. Picked up another couple of tenths on this lap, but it's going to have to be big gains here for Jake Fox. I think he might just be on the right side of it here. But on that last lap...
Fox won't get there. I'm making that call.
Half a second. It'll be very close.
It won't be enough. They're coming to the white.
That they are indeed. Jason Martin rounds turn 4. He will see the white flag at the stand here from Barney, who finally has something to do here this afternoon. After such a long green flag stint, we will go official here with 267 laps from Homestead, Miami. A single caution back on lap number 43 or thereabouts. And, well, how's that for a stat? 163 of... Well, that should be 164 out of 267 laps in this race. Jason Martin got up front and has not looked back ever since. Rounding turns 3 and 4. He will cap off the Majors Series for 2022 with a win to his name here at the championship finale. And he comes home 27 seconds clear of the man in position number 2. And you were right indeed. While all that was happening, Phil Otto hangs on to the class win in Sportsman by 7 tenths over Jake Fox. Northway just now rounding into turns 3 and 4 for his chance to take that checkered flag in P2.
And, he almost threw it into the fence. He did, but it won't matter. Northway is your champion in the Pro Class Major Series 2022.
P2 well and truly secures it thanks to Thomas Hinz finishing in 4th. There is your Sportsman race winner today, the 013 of Phil Otto, ahead of the 08, his teammate Jake Fox. Now the Sportsman Class Championship, we
Mookie,
just don't know.
Mookie finishes 3rd.
And Mookie was ahead on points.
No, he wasn't.
He was. I've just checked it.
Behind Robertson?
He was behind Robertson, but ahead of Trevethan.
Oh, yeah, well...
So, for all... That should be enough for Julian Mookie to take it.
Yeah.
Despite drop rounds being a thing. But, unfortunately, we just don't have any certainty as Jason Martin pulls it up there. And are we going to see some burnouts from the number 21?
He's had enough practice.
There we go. Light him up for us, Jason. The Goodyear rubber is now an optional accessory on that car. So he'll burn the house down, back down the front straightaway. There, and there's a solid set of 11s there added to the front stretch here at Homestead. Also at the Kinetic Avatar squad, who's done a fantastic little photo op for themselves up on the backstretch, and now they're breaking out into a burnout party. And unfortunately for Jason Martin, there was more life in those tyres, but the engine's given up first. We enjoy those sights there from the Kinetic Avatar Racing crew on the backstretch, lining up their rubber. But let's now turn our attention to the race results here from the championship finale in the International Region of the Major Series for 2022. 28.5 seconds your margin at the line between Jason Martin and Robert Northway. Nothing short of a dominant display today there from the 21 machine. Northway will be very happy with the second place, and as you said, the championship win in the pro class. Headed Dwayne Burns there in P3, and then it's Thomas Hinz to lead home the contingent a lap down today. Dan Stevens will have to settle for 5th at the end of that one there. Shane Bowen in P6. Sam Harper in P7. Gavin Barber in P8 and Dean Mole in P9 to round out your one lap down drivers. P10 goes to your sportsman winner Phil Otto there in the 013 machine.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Jake Fox. Jake Fox just misses out on the class win, just misses out on the overall top 10, comes home in 11th ahead of Julian Mookie. It's 3rd in Sportsman today. We think it's 1st in Sportsman for the year. Just ahead of Nick McMillan and Dave Trevethan. Joshua Thomas had a challenging race in 15th ahead of Matt Chalker, Jonathan Bain, James Catchpole, Connor Brown, Stuart Elder, and our only retirement after 267 laps, Joshua Robertson.
Indeed, unfortunately for Robertson there, he occupies that 3rd page on the timing screen by his lonesome self. And a little update actually from Dan Stevens today, explaining what happened to his shocking pit stop in that midpoint. Ryan, unfortunately, deselected the fuel in the pit stop, and so had to basically take 2 pit stops at the same time, once with tyres and once for fuel. But what we will do is grab a couple of drivers in to have a chat today. First of all, we're going to grab our race winner here from the championship finale. Jason Martin joins us in the commentary box. Jason, had to work your way forward a tiny bit from the start there, but it was slow and steady going, at least is what it seemed like from the start. But that was really just a case of you exercising your prowess on an oval, it seems, tonight, and really looking after your car on those long green flag runs.
Oh yeah, thanks mate. I built the car pretty tight so that it lasted on the long run, so I knew if it stayed green, I knew I'd do pretty good, and the car would last quite a bit longer than most others, so yeah, it was pretty bad to drive for the first 5-10 laps, but after that it came pretty good.
Well, it didn't look too bad, all things considered, on those opening couple of laps in that case, but yeah, your long run pace today just completely in a different class, it seems, compared to everyone else there on the road. Obviously, with other drivers opting for different strategies or suffering with tyre wear, meaning we did see those really differing pit laps, and therefore where everyone was at on tyres, getting pretty varied there as the race went on. Any moments from your perspective today that maybe got a little bit crazy there, given how much green flag running we got there?
Yeah, probably about after 45-50 laps it started getting real sketchy, and I started to struggle a bit, and few big moments every now and then, but yeah, I knew if I could keep it a long run and make everyone have to do long runs, I felt pretty safe, so I definitely wanted them to make them have to do long runs.
Jason, did you find the right rear was overheating? It's something we found in the Cup car a few times this year, and we saw a few drivers really struggling with looseness after just 20 laps if they went hard. Was that something you had to nurse?
That's what I did with the setup to fix that. I made it super tight so that it wore the right fronts more than the rears, so yeah, I didn't have too many issues with that, so yeah, that's just why I built it tight.
It was a pretty cruisy race for you though, wasn't it, Jason? I mean, as we saw, you held back early on and then charged your way through. What were you doing in order to keep yourself occupied? Because on an oval, it can get a little bit tiresome sometimes running around by yourself. You got a 25-second lead by the end?
Yeah, well, luckily after that 40 to 50 laps, it started getting sketchy, so you had to pay attention the whole time. But yeah, I would have loved to yellow so I could relax a bit and grab a drink, and yeah, would have loved to yellow. What's going on?
I think we used all the Australian oval yellows in NASCAR these weeks. But great race, Jason. A good win for you, flying in, stealing the win from all of the regulars in the championship. It's pretty standard for you. Who gets it done for you?
I've got to thank the majors for putting on the series. I'm hoping to do a few more next year. Depends on work and everything, but yeah, I'm hoping to do a few more next year, so hopefully it's still around. Got to thank my sponsors, Affinity Constructions Australia and Mad As Designs. And yeah, well done to Robert Northway on taking out the championship, and Thomas Hinds for a close second.
Well, there we are. Thank you very much. Jason Martin, your winner today at the championship finale for the Majors Series International Region in 2022. We'll turn our attention to both the man who comes home in P2 today on the road, but more importantly, seals himself the Pro Class Championship here in the Majors Series for 2022. It's Robert Northway here with us. Congratulations, first of all, Robert. You did exactly what you needed to do in terms of finishing up there in second place today. And unfortunately, Hinsey not quite had the pace with you on the oval over the course of the long runs, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So you certainly did what you needed to do.
Yeah, I just went into this race wanting to have a clean run, try and keep it calm, and the fact that we only had one caution and 200 odd laps green was exactly what I needed. I probably did suffer a wee bit from having a shorter run car, which made these long green runs a handful, but it was exactly what I wanted and needed.
Indeed, I guess sort of if you could talk us through that mindset when it comes to repairing a car like this, how much trade-off did you end up having to sort of make for yourself there in opting for a car that was a bit more optimized on the shorter runs, given that we saw basically, apart from the opening 40 laps being slightly shorter than expected, everything else was basically a full tank run for the rest of the race?
Yeah, so with this race, I basically, in testing, I found that I could. You saw how I was in the first stint. My car was set up for that short run, and that I would have been 3 or 4 seconds over 10 laps, and another 3 or 4 over 20 faster. But over 60, I was probably about 5 seconds slower. So there's actually a lot of compromise in terms of the balance I found.
Well, you certainly pulled it together across all the disciplines we saw here in the Major Series this year, and another podium here on the ovals to wrap up the season. Certainly makes us, I think, a championship well deserved in your hands this year. I guess hopefully will we look forward to seeing you back in 2023 when the Major Series returns?
Yep, as long as we've got a time slot that's in our time zone, I'll be probably the only series I'll be doing, but it will be the series I'll be in.
Well, stay tuned for the news on the Major Series in 2023 as for what time slot will be available for us on this side of the world. But before we let you go, Robert, who do you want to thank today for your result, both in the race and with the championship on the whole?
For the championship, I'll thank especially the satellite racing guys. They've been really helpful with the setups. Kiwi Sim guys have been good. Like I had Ben Doherty jumped on and kind of spotted for me to help me keep tabs on Hinsey and all the other guys strategy wise in this race. Daniel Heaterchild gave me some pointers. So did Toby Stint. He helped me out this week as well. And then just everyone who's followed me, my family's been watching, and especially my wife putting up all these hours I've been putting in. And like saying, like 240 hours across the season for the series. Yeah. 35,000 kilometres.
Sure is one heck of a commitment, and yeah, that's certainly come as well deserved and paid out quite well indeed. Congratulations, Robert. Well done once again on the 2022 championship.
Thank you, and thank you guys for the broadcast.
There we go, your Pro Class champion there, and second on the road today for that one there. One final person we'll quickly jump to a chat to. I'll hand over to Ryan Jones with Phil Otto joining us as our Sportsman class winner in the championship finale here today.
G'day Phil, good race for you. I picked you early on as someone who would have a good showing. You got a lot of oval experience, and you brought home a very good result today.
Thanks, mate. It was fun. After that first caution, I thought we'd at least get another 3 or 4, but thankfully it stayed green, and hope it was a good race for you guys.
Yeah, well, we would have liked a caution towards the end. 200 laps green, spread the field out just a little bit, but it was pretty tight for you at the end. Jake Fox running you down. Differing pit strategies out there. You went for the earliest stop. How concerned were you towards the end there with Fox coming up behind you?
Oh, it's pretty well concerned. My tyres were shot, I reckon, for the last 15 laps, and I was hanging on. hanging on for dear life. So it was still good to get up the top, and to Dave for winning the championship. I think he was the best fella all year. Well done, Dave.
That was the car to drive. We saw a lot of issues. Jason talked about setting his car up to be ultra tight so they didn't have the overheating right rear that we saw from a lot of people out there today. How did you find it?
Yeah, that's if you took it easy for the first, as much as you can take it easy for the first 3 or 4 laps, you could sort of extend the tyre life a bit, but it started to get really squidgy from about lap 45 onwards. 45 to 50, you could really find a marked drop off. I had to really worry about getting loose off turn 4. That's where I had to take it easy there. So.
In terms of your championship, you finish off, Dave. Should still be the champion in Legends. P2 is a very good result for you nonetheless.
I'm happy as a pig in to get that. Dave's been the class of the Legends all year. So with five wins or 4 or 5 wins, he deserved it. He was the better one all year. So good on him.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Phil. Thanks for putting on an entertaining season and an entertaining race today. Who are the people that help you get it done on the racetrack?
I want to thank all the boys for Kinetic Avatar Racing for all the time and effort we've put in this year. It's been a really great bunch of fellas. To Jay and you guys for all the work you've done all year. It's been much appreciated. And to Mike and his crew, absolutely outstanding. Brilliant work, boys. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Phil.
Well, with that, Ryan, I believe we are going to bring things to a close. So apologies to Dwayne and Hinsey, who are currently down in the interview booth, but being asked to wrap things up there for tonight. And yeah, well, a race where we were kind of thinking maybe we'd see some more cautions that would, compress things up a little bit more there over the course of the race. But no, indeed, we get that 220-odd lap green flag run. Actually, I think it's more like 215, but all the same, that's a very long stint of green flag running to sort things out, spread things out, as you said there in that chat there with Phil in particular. Really sort of mix things up in that particular method. And that is how we bring things to a close for 2022.
Can't say I was there for all of it, or most of it, but I was there for some of it. It's a good battle. It was a good end to the championship. That's all I could say. That's all I saw.
Indeed, that is true. And well, it means we can now start turning our attention to the major series in 2023. It will be back, first of all, and we here at SimSpeed TV will be back to cover the major series, or at least help cover the major series, I should say, for 2023. The announcement comes out Monday morning, our time here in Australia, as to the 2023 format and events for that one there. Sunday Pacific time, if I'm not mistaken, is the conversion there. So please keep your eyes on the Major Series social pages, as well as the Major Series Discord for all the current drivers or prospective drivers who are currently in that Discord server too. You'll be able to get all the information off of the Majors Series admin team when they go live with the news about 2023 in due course. And one final time for the year, thank you all very much for being here to watch the racing, whether it has been with us live this afternoon here, Saturday evening, night, whether you're watching it afterwards on demand, thanks to the replays here on SimSpeed's social media channels. Hope you've enjoyed the racing here in the Major Series. Congratulations to Robert Northway once again for the Pro Class Championship. Commiserations to Thomas Inns real quickly there. Second place, he consolidates that position there in the, or second place in the Pro Class. And then the Legends Championship, which we, as I said, do believe goes to Julian Mookie, with Phil Otto probably might come in second there, but again with Dave Trevethan, 2 back and forth there as well. Very close. Make sure you keep an eye on the major socials for information to see the results here in the international region for those standings. My name is Danny Yeaman. thanks to Ryan Jones for joining us here for the finale at Homestead Miami in the comms box. Jay Kennedy on production once again. And once again, stay tuned for the major series for news on 2023. Until then, thank you all for watching. Have a good weekend, and bye for now.